Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm Evan Ash, joined as always by Corey Puffett and Eric Meyer. Today on the show, there's been a little bit of NBA news. We got some college football and certainly plenty of NFL to get to. But we'll start in Major League Baseball right quick. And of course, the Baltimore Orioles. So the Orioles are... what's our record? 51 and 106. So you would think they don't really figure into the playoff picture now that it's the last week of the season. But that is not the case at all. So last night the Orioles sent the Red Sox home crying in the chowder on the 10-year anniversary of the Curse of the Andino game. 4-2 win for the O's and a critical loss for Boston. They needed that win real bad because the playoff picture in the American League wildcard race is super duper tight, and with only 5 games left, you need every win you can get. So we'll run down the playoff picture here shortly, but just to round out the O's, 3-4 since our last show, which is great considering they're, again, 51 and 106.
Yeah, playing you guys selves out of the number 1 draft spot.
Yes, we've totally screwed that up too. The Diamondbacks are they lost to the Giants.
Yeah, they played the
Giants
last night. Yeah.
So now the Orioles are now 1 game behind, in air quotes, for the number 1 pick. Let's see. Cedric Mullins was unanimously named most valuable Oriole. It's a no-brainer, really. He's had a terrific season, and everybody else has been okay at best for the most part. Ryan Mountcastle's leading all rookies with 32 home runs. He had a 2-run homer off of Chris Sale last night. It was absolutely cranked. It was spectacular. Chris Sale took the loss as well. He had some colorful words to say after the game, so he wasn't happy, and that's just too bad. So they got 2 more against the Red Sox tonight and tomorrow, and then they finish up the season with 3 games in Toronto. And then some minor league news. Adley Rutschman and Kyle Stowers named co-minor league players of the year, and then Grayson Rodriguez was named minor league pitcher of the year. So yeah, Corey, how are you doing in general? And then, tell everybody about the Yankees.
I'm doing pretty well. A little tired. Had some tough runs this week with the cross-country team. We did 11 miles on Monday, and then we did 8 by half-mile repeats today. So I wound up doing about 7 miles total when you include the warm-up and cool-down along with the actual workout. So yeah, my legs are tired, but the Yankees are playing really well right now. They've won 7 in a row. Got 5 more games in the regular season to try and close things out and clinch a spot in the wild card. And then we'll have to play a 1-game playoff to try and actually get into the tournament. Giancarlo Stanton had a really nice home run last night to kind of open things up. The Yankees had a 3-2 lead down the stretch. I think it was like the 7th or 8th inning when he came up to bat. And he had done nothing in his first few bats, as per usual with Giancarlo Stanton. And then he just, it was like Hideki Matsui in the 2009 World Series against the Phillies. Just a golf swing home run that he launched probably out of the country of Canada. he launched that thing, 3-run home run, opened the game up, got us the win. So he and Aaron Judge have been just scorching hot this September. Stanton is a little bit frustrating because he'll do nothing for the first few at bats, but then in those clutch moments he seems to come up big, and we'll need him to continue doing that if we're going to actually make any sort of noise in the playoffs. Of course, we still got to get there. It's not an easy road. We're playing the Blue Jays right now, the second of that 3-game set, and we're currently already down 2-0. Garrett Cole is on the mound and gave up 2 first-inning runs, so that's already not good. Because you expect that when Garrett Cole is on the mound, this is a game that we can win out of these last 5. So we'll see what happens there. We'll have another game tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll have a 3-game set with the Rays. We do have a 2.5-game lead on the first team out, which currently is the Mariners. So, we have a little bit of a cushion, but still, I mean, we've seen this sort of a lead dissipate in the closing days of seasons plenty of times before. And the Yankees have certainly been able to go from red hot to ice cold in no time flat before this season. So I am not holding my breath. I'm not even crossing my fingers for fear of a cramp. I'm going to let this thing play out and hope for the best.
Yeah, the Yankees still have the issue of the fact that they've got easily the toughest remaining schedule. So they kind of have to get at least one more win against the Blue Jays, I think, because they don't want to finish this series with them only down a game and then have 3 against the Rays when then the Blue Jays get to go face the Orioles. That's because the Blue Jays are going to win all 3 of those games. So then you have to sweep the Rays, and while the Rays are currently not really playing for anything, they certainly have no interest in helping the Yankees by laying down. So they're going to play hard and try to get those wins too. And then the Red Sox are playing the Orioles currently. I know that the Orioles got it done last night, but the Red Sox are already up on the Orioles today 1-0 and seem to be threatened to score more runs. And then they finish this with the series against the Nationals, who have been tanking since the trade deadline. So this is certainly not the sweep that the Yankees got against the Red Sox was season-saving, I think, because if they drop even one of those games, their situation looks dire. Whereas right now it looks like if they're able just to manufacture a couple of wins the rest of the way, they'll probably be able to hold on and get in.
Well, bottom of the second inning, and Cole has given up another run, so it's now 3-0 Toronto.
Yeah, so this doesn't look like their night, because I think who's pitching for the Blue Jays tonight? Is it Ray?
Let me take a quick look. It looks like it is Braxton Berrios.
Oh, he's been pretty good this year too.
Yeah,
so that's
2 innings in, no hits allowed, 3 strikeouts. So he's looking pretty good. Tomorrow, Yankees have Corey Kluber and Robbie Ray is pitching for the Blue Jays.
That'll be a tough one to win too.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yep.
Again, it was big because but the Yankees were down in the game against the Blue Jays yesterday. I think it was only 1-0, but still.
Yeah.
So it was good that they came
and
back
then
and won
2-1
that.
as well.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then, like I said, against the Red Sox, they had that goofy situation where Joe West, in his last gasp as an umpire, completely blew that strikeout, which, just it turned into runs instead of an out, which, Stanton came up after that and hit a home run to maybe make it less brutal. But my goodness, if the Yankees had won that game by 1, that would have been all over the news because that was just such a bad call. Like, that was inexcusably bad by Joe West on that call. But like I said, fortunately, it worked out anyway because Stanton hit a blast to make it a 3-run game. And Joe West can just go away anytime now.
Mm-hmm. I can't say I disagree with that. I mean, when Joe West broke the record for most games ever umpired, I'm like, that's not good.
That's an indictment on Major League Baseball. Like, they were celebrating it on ESPN, and I was like, why are we celebrating bad umpiring being rewarded with tenure?
For decades.
Basically. I mean, Joe West has been among the worst umpires in baseball as voted on by the players since I had a Sports Illustrated subscription, and that was 15 years ago.
Pretty sure if they allowed fans to vote, he would also be among the worst. Him and Angel Hernandez.
And then C.B. Buckner. Those are like the big 3 of awful umpires in Major League Baseball. and yet they seem
C.V.
to work
Buckner
a lot of
has
playoff
managed
series.
to stay off of my radar, but Joe West and Angel Hernandez have been very much on my radar.
C.V. Buckner is also exceptionally bad.
I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying I haven't really,
Yeah.
his name I haven't really come across his name that much.
Yeah, hopefully it stays that way for your sake, because you might tear your hair out.
Teams that aren't tearing their hair out, Tampa Bay, Chicago White Sox, and the Milwaukee Brewers have all clinched their divisions.
Milwaukee Brewers might be tearing their hair out now.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. So they had a little whoopsie. So one of their
Whoopsie,
relief
to put it
pitchers,
mildly.
yeah, one of their relief pitchers had a few adult beverages in their celebration when they clinched their division, I believe on Sunday or Saturday. And he apparently got mad at something and punched a wall with his pitching hand. His hand is broken and requires surgery, and he's going to be out for the season. Like, just
Congratulations,
what?
you played yourself.
Yeah, that was not great.
That was real dumb.
It's hard to imagine it getting dumber than that. I ranted about this on the chat. I absolutely have no patience for people who punch things and get hurt. Like, how dumb are you? And what is wrong with you? Can you just not act like a psycho?
You are so dumb.
Just control your
really
emotions.
Yeah. Just don't be a nut. Be an adult. Whatever slight or perceived slight that happened while you were inebriated, just don't punch stuff. Keep your hands to yourself. Don't punch walls. Don't punch bricks. Don't punch people. Don't punch anything. Just sit there and calm down. Like, it's just I don't believe this. I mean, this is dumber than Gus Frerotte suffering that neck injury he had because in the hype after scoring, he slammed his head into the pad.
Was it a neck injury too? I know it was a concussion.
Yeah, he suffered some type of like disc
I thought
injury.
he broke
in his
neck or something.
Yeah, it was
Maybe. I knew he got a concussion from it.
I remember when
Jeez.
that news break came on SportsCenter, and I didn't really understand what the season meant back then because I was a kid. So my idea of what the season meant was like he'll be out till the end of fall. I didn't realize it meant the football season because I didn't know that was like the nomenclature we used to describe a football season. And so I was like, oh, well, he'll be back in a few weeks then. My dad was like, nah, son. Nah, he's out for the rest of this football year. Like, he will be out until after the Super Bowl. He might be back next September. And I was just like, oh, that's a little different.
Yeah, just a little.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean this is up there with I first thought of Marty Cordova having to miss some time because he fell asleep in a tanning bed and burned himself.
Well, then there was Trevor Bauer in the 2016 World Series was scratched from starts because he gashed up his hand playing with his drone. And then he tried to pitch with stitches in his hand, in his throwing hand.
Gushing.
It was gushing blood, and he sucked, and he was terrible. And that was the end of that. So, I mean, Trevor Bauer's got other problems now
Yes,
that
he
are
does.
more serious, but even back then, I was like, every time I heard Trevor Bauer's name, I was like, okay, all the clownish stuff that we see on social media and his interactions with other people, throwing the ball over the fence, it all makes sense when you just say, okay, the first thing I heard about this guy was in the middle of the playoffs, he decided to play with his toy drone and cut up his hand. And I'm just like, moron.
Yeah. Let's see. The Dodgers and the Giants have both clinched playoff berths, but the Giants currently lead the Dodgers by 2 games. They've each got 5 to play. So we'll see what happens. I mean, these are big games for them too, even though they've both won 103 and 101 games respectively. You don't want to go into a wild card game playoff situation to face the Cardinals, who have won now 17 consecutive games.
Which is crazy
And,
because they're only 19 games above 500, which means that they started this barely above 500.
Yeah, they weren't good, right?
Yeah.
They were in the Cardinals were in the soup with with all the other miserable teams, the Phillies, the Reds, the Padres, the Mets. The Cardinals were right in that mix, and then they just caught on fire. And they've just decided, yeah, we're not losing. So I believe that I saw on Twitter the Cardinals have tied their franchise record with 17 consecutive wins. And so the last time they won 17 straight games was in 1885.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, they've been around for a while. They locked up the second wild card. So even
that's
though
done.
Yeah, that's way.
yeah,
done.
it's over.
The only
So
question
like
now
even
is
though
the
the Cardinals
East.
have won 17 straight, they're still 13 games behind the Dodgers. That's how
Right.
far ahead the Dodgers and then the Giants are.
So the only question is just, will it be the Braves or the Phillies? And I mean, the Braves have a
I think
3.5 game
I think
lead.
that was settled
so.
last night when the Braves
Yeah.
beat the Phillies, and they're already up 2-0 in tonight's game,
Yeah.
which would basically call it. Like the Braves
Yeah.
at this point, the Braves have no excuse not to win the division. What they need to do is they need to make sure that they don't have to play that makeup game against Colorado because they've got a missing game on their schedule. But
Wow.
if it comes down to we need one more win to be ahead of the Phillies, that would be really annoying to have to play a makeup game that's currently not scheduled.
Yeah, because basically then you're like playing you're still playing like a 1-game playoff as a potential division winner.
Yeah, you have to do something extra to get in that you shouldn't need to at this point. You're 3.5 games up. I think their magic number is 3.
Yeah.
So if they win today, which again they're already up 2-0, and they're clearly better than the Phillies. At that point, if they win today, the magic number is down to 1. Just win one of your last 4 games that are currently scheduled, and I believe their last series is against the Mets, so that shouldn't be a problem. So just take care of business there. Last night's game got really interesting late. I think
did.
Evan and I were both watching, and
Yeah, I turned that on.
the Braves were up 2-0, and then leadoff walk to Bryce Harper, which you never want to walk the leadoff guy. That's not usually a good way to close out a game. And then I think they got somebody out, and then there was a dropped line drive in the
Yes.
outfield that led to shenanigans ensuing. Should have been the second out of the inning, and it created a big kerfuffle and a big mess. The bases were, I believe, there was runners on second and third.
They loaded the bases. They intentionally walked McCutcheon to pitch to
Freddie Galvis,
Freddie Galvis. Yeah.
who struck out. But he made it interesting. And just the entire inning I was watching, it's like, this looks like the same old Braves, where they bring in a relief pitcher to close out a key game, and he can't miss any bats. Like, all of his pitches are either getting hit hard or he's not throwing them in the strike zone. And so
The outs he got were loud
Yes.
outs.
Like, Didi Gregorius hit that sharp line drive to right field. I thought that was going to be go-ahead double or something like that, but the outfield was playing a little bit deep, and the right fielder was able to make the play. But it was just... I don't trust the Braves at all in a postseason environment, but I think that they're going to get it done.
Yeah, I do kind of wish that they were seeded a little differently. So like the Giants and the Dodgers, if they do potentially meet in the postseason, it would be in the NLCS instead of in the division series. But that's just sort of how it works out. So we're gonna see the Braves or the Brewers in the NLCS instead of the Giants and the Dodgers against each other. Let's see. So that's it for the National League. The National League is pretty boring. Let's switch back over to the American League, where it's just going crazy right now. So currently, as we speak right now, the Yankees and the Red Sox are in the 2 wild card positions. The Seattle Mariners, Eric, the Seattle Mariners are a half a game out of the playoffs with 5 games to go. Well, they have 4 games left.
Okay.
What say you?
I say they're still not going to make it because it's the Mariners. And as I mentioned, it's basically going to come down to either the Yankees get this done or they fall behind, because there's just no way the Red Sox and Blue Jays are going to cede ground to anybody when playing the Orioles and the Nationals. Like, those teams suck, and the Nationals gave up 2 months ago. Like, those are going to be a whole bunch of wins, whereas I believe the Mariners probably have a little bit tougher of a finish, and it's the Mariners. They don't make the playoffs. It's against the rules. Like, it's just not a thing.
Yeah, the Mariners are playing. I know they're at home. They are hosting the Angels, who are terrible.
Yeah, they're terrible, but they're not as terrible. And I think they said it could
Ohtani's pitching on Sunday.
Ohtani's going to pitch the final game of the year, which the Mariners are probably going to need to win if they want any chance to get in. And that could be excellent because I would love to watch Shohei Ohtani slam the door on the Mariners season. That would just nothing would make me happier.
Nothing would make you happier.
Yes, that's
No.
right. I'm vindictive towards my former favorite team. I'm tired of them.
Okay.
I'm done with them. All loyalty is gone. I want this postseason drought to extend as long as possible for them because they deserve it.
Wow. Okay.
Harsh, but fair.
Yeah, I think it's very fair. They put me through a lot of BS for a lot of years, and I'm over it.
So you root for the Orioles, who are
The Orioles have made the postseason 3 times since the last time the Mariners made it. So
that is true.
And they honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they got there before them going forward, because the Mariners aren't going to make it this year, and this is probably their best shot because they're going to screw it up next year, and then the Orioles are going to hopefully turn around at some point in the next few years and build into something pretty good, and the Mariners are just going to be the Mariners as usual, just flailing away in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. Well, the Toronto Blue Jays are a whole game behind the Red Sox, half a game behind Seattle, and then clinging to life, but only just, the Oakland A's 3.5 out. They're playing the Mariners tonight. They're toast. They already lost the first 2 games of that series, so the A's can pretty much forget it. But they haven't been completely eliminated just yet. I am hoping for chaos, right? I am hoping for a 4-way tie. The tie-breaking scenarios, though they've never happened, they have a little tournament, and I don't know how you schedule this. There's with football going on, like some teams share parking lots with other teams. I don't know if any of these teams do. Oh, the Mariners and the Seahawks
Yep.
are neighbors. But how do you schedule this? And then what if it rains? Right? Like it could just be wild. And then you might have a wild card game situation, all while the division series is getting delayed and stuff. Just sign me up for all of that, please.
November baseball, baby, like for a whole week instead of just a day or two. That'd be something.
Right. Yeah. Sign me up for all of that. So we will see what happens. But I would like to hear from you guys right now, on the record in front of everybody. Who are the 2 AL wildcard teams? I've got the Yankees and the Red Sox going to go chalk.
I'm still going to stick with the Yankees just because I think they've got enough of a lead. And I'm going to go with the Blue Jays.
I'm going to go Blue Jays as well.
Yankees, Blue Jays?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is a good point. The Blue Jays get 3 layups this weekend, right? So the Orioles are pitching Joe Schmo and his 2 friends or whoever those people are. It don't matter. So,
the Red Sox sort of do too, but I think that the Nationals have a better shot of taking one against the Red Sox than the Orioles do against the Blue Jays. Plus, the Blue Jays, their run differential is basically the same as the Rays. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt as far as their offense being able to lift them to those wins.
Yeah, plus the Red Sox have just been choking lately.
They have been.
The Blue Jays didn't do themselves any favors by only earning a split in a 4-game set with the Twins, but before that, they had been playing pretty good baseball, whereas the Red Sox have just been, the last week or so, it looked like they had a playoff spot locked up. Like it was basically between the Yankees and the Blue Jays for that final spot. And
basically, Ben, which team is going to choke latest in the season? And now it looks like it's the Red Sox.
It feels like none of these teams really deserve to be in the playoffs.
They really don't.
Because
this is why we don't need a 5-team playoff. Just make it 4 again.
This is why we do need a 5-team playoff. You ask me, because these regular season games are so important, right? Like the Giants and the Dodgers. That if it was only 4, like we had before 2012, Like the two of them could just, well, we've got our position pretty much locked up. One of us will get to play, we'll get one extra home game. But other than that, I mean, there's no difference. But like when you've won 103 games and your season could end because you're hosting the hottest team of all time in these Cardinals. Like you don't want to be in that situation. Like why would you set yourself up for that? So, that
I would make the argument that they shouldn't be in that situation.
Well, whose fault is that? They had all summer.
It's the league's fault for making it making this
the
the
league's
rule.
not playing any
the
baseball
Cardinals
games.
don't really deserve to be in the playoffs either. I mean, great for them. They've won 17 in a row, but they put themselves in a position where that 17 in a row doesn't even put them within, arm's length of wiping the Dodgers' ass.
I mean, the thing is, though, the Cardinals, I mean, their win percentage is .561. That's ahead of the Braves right now. So
that's true. If anybody doesn't deserve it, it's the NL East winner. Like if we're gonna pick somebody in the National League, like to me, the benchmark has always been if you win 90 games, you deserve a shot at a playoff spot. Now, if mathematically you have
are at 88,
yeah. So, like if mathematically, if you just don't make it big, even with 90 wins, I'm not gonna feel bad for you because that's just the way it goes. But I feel like if you win fewer than 90 games and you get in, I feel like you lucked out, especially if you're a division winner. I mean, that's just
looking at you, Atlanta Braves, who have 84 wins with
unbelievable
5 games left.
I hate that. But the Cardinals sort of have a 2007 Rockies vibe to me. Like, remember the Rockies won like a gajillion games in September and got into the playoffs and then won the National League pennant and then just got absolutely boat raced in the World Series. But, the point is they went through the postseason gauntlet. Yeah. And got there, and then they just ran into a generationally great Red Sox team and got the brakes beaten off of them. But, like, the thing is...
And I'm not going to argue that they deserve to be in more than the Braves, but, like, neither of those teams really deserves to be in. Is kind of the point.
But it's also hard for me to feel super bad for the Dodgers because they played the Giants 19 times, and they lost 10 of them. And they blew a lot of those games. Like, they should have won probably 3 more than they did. And that would have been the difference between them cruising to the division title at this last week of the season and desperate to even stay within striking distance as we head into the last weekend series. I mean, it's on them. I mean, they've had multiple times where it's like they were up 1 run late and they choked and they blew it. And so they've made their bed. They had every opportunity to extinguish this Giants fire of them just being great for no reason, and they didn't do it. They could have sent the Giants to play the Cardinals in the wild card, but even with all their money and all their awesome players and their all-time great roster, they could not deliver the goods when it mattered the most against their biggest opponent. So no sympathy.
I do personally hope that the Dodgers lose the wild card game.
It's gonna happen.
It just feels inevitable, especially if they pitch Kershaw against the Cardinals.
Against Wainwright, right?
They have to pitch Scherzer. They have to. They can't pitch Kershaw in that game. Or Buehler, because Buehler's been gagging. Like, that dude is not pitching well enough for his stature. I'm sorry.
Buehler was he pitched well last night, didn't he?
Yeah, but like last week he got lit up in a game that they had to win.
Yeah, I don't think that he was even in the stadium. Buehler.
Corey's got all the vivid jokes and analogies talking about wiping asses and referencing Ferris Bueller. I mean, my goodness. He's in a mood.
I'm in rare form tonight.
He's in a mood. I thought you were tired from all the running. What's going on?
Well, fatigue tends to make me a little bit, delirious.
Oh, that's great. Well, hopefully that'll help us catch up to you in the football picks.
Yeah. Walker Buehler last night, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts.
Who'd they play?
The San Diego Padres.
Well, the Padres have collapsed, so.
There you go.
I mean, I'm just saying, right? The stats don't lie. I'm just reading the box score here.
I feel like if you look through his game log in a lot of key games this year, he's been subpar. You had him on your fantasy team. You ought to know.
Yeah, I did have him on my fantasy team, and since the fantasy season ended, I haven't been paying attention to what he was doing. But while the season was going on, he was my set it and forget it, start your studs guy.
Yeah, maybe that's why you didn't make it into the championship game.
My team was on fumes by the time the playoffs rolled around. Like I was out of players, right? Like I was relying on that Red Sox offense toward the end of the season, but they all caught COVID and none of the guys were available. I thought DeGrom was coming back at some point. He never pitched again. It just, we ran out of juice. Is all. I pulled up his game log here, Bueller. I don't. Oh, he only pitched 3 innings on September 5th, 3 2/3 on September 22nd, against San Francisco and Colorado, respectively.
Yeah, you gotta go longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cutting it.
So is that it for the playoff races? We covered everything?
So, yeah.
Okay. Some college football to maybe to update, but to notify everyone about. So on Friday night, number 5 Iowa is coming to College Park, Maryland, to take on the Maryland Terrapins at 8:00 on FS1. Sounds like a fun time.
That's gonna be a
class
pain in
has
my
been
ass trying to
canceled.
get over to the Matha game on Friday night because I got to call that, and I'll be leaving at 5:00 from practice.
Well, fortunately for you, the university decided that they were going to open the parking lots up early, so maybe the traffic will be not as bad.
Here's hoping.
Where's is DeMatha's game? Is that the
It's
PG
at the complex, but I have to leave from Maryland, from DeMatha, which is a mile down the road from Maryland.
Oh.
Just take 450 out there.
Well, yeah, that's how I'm going to, but getting out is still going to be a pain.
Okay, if you say so.
Just cancel practice. It's just like the university canceled class. It's a big football game. Got to cancel stuff. We can't have class at this institution of higher learning. We have to cancel classes for football. This is madness. It needs to stop.
I mean, I just don't understand why they insist on playing on Friday night in the DMV. That's sort of it sort of forced their hand in order to make this happen without it becoming a complete disaster.
Nobody's hand is forced. People signed up for this, right? The people who sign the checks and cash big checks, they made the schedule. I mean, it's there's no mistakes were made. This was intentional.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So
it was intentional.
If it's a mess, then they have to look in the mirror to find somebody to blame.
I agree. I can't say you're wrong. I'm just saying it's when it comes down to it, when you have a Friday night game and it's a big game, this is gonna happen. It's just the way it goes apparently around here because we don't care about learning and we care more about making sure people can get drunk earlier at a tailgate. Which whatever. I'm not going to be there, so doesn't really hurt my feelings either way. And I'm no longer a student, so again, doesn't affect me.
Again, an institution of higher learning. That's the objective of the university. But, whatever. 12 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah. 12 o'clock on Saturday. Pitt is at Georgia Tech. That's on ACC Network. I don't get ACC Network because Comcast and ACC Network just haven't come to a deal, even though it's been 3 years. I don't know what they're waiting on. Also here in the state of Georgia, number 8 Arkansas is visiting number 2 UGA at noon on ESPN. College Game Day will be there. Come on, Arkansas. Y'all had a nice win against Texas A&M at Jerry World. Jerry was happy and smiling and clapping and stuff. He even wiped off his own glasses. But Arkansas needs to win this game. Please, please, please. So, yeah. I'll probably be watching that. And let's see, 7 Cincinnati at number 9 Notre Dame. I mean, this is Cincinnati's opportunity to make a statement. what conference are they in? Are they in the American or the Atlantic Sun
think
or something like
American.
that?
I think,
Something
yeah,
like
they're
that.
in the American whatever conference, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
they're
the
playing
American.
a pretty tough schedule. If they, if they're undefeated at the end of the regular season, they ought to be in the college football playoff. Like they'll have the resume. I feel like.
I mean, we went through this 3 years ago with UCF. They were undefeated. Um, I think the CFP ranked them like 8 or
Yeah,
something.
but I don't
Like
think
just
that they had the
completely.
same resume that Cincinnati would have if they win all of their games. Like they're actually playing some pretty good teams on their schedule.
I mean, one of UCF's non-conference marquee games was against the University of Maryland. So,
There you
Oh.
go.
I mean, what are we really talking about here?
Yeah, Maryland's a football powerhouse now. Gotta
Yeah, man,
you know,
gotta
shut down the university
gotta
for
prep the snake pit, man. It's SVP's gonna be there with Stanford Steve.
the snake pit.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called that.
But they're not a snake.
I don't know. It's not a snake mascot. I know it sounds stupid. There's some reason for it. In fact, I actually think that the reason for it is derogatory. Like it's a negative statement about the University of Maryland's football program because something about nobody goes. I don't know why that makes it a snake pit, but again, not important. I'll look it up later and we'll talk afterwards.
Anyway, I think the most interesting game of the day is number 12 Ole Miss at number 1 Alabama.
Lane
Eli
Kiffin.
Manning was trying to get some insights into that game from
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban on Monday Night Football. Peyton
Oh,
shut
yeah.
that down pretty quick.
Well, I mean, Peyton's alma mater makes a habit of getting waxed by Alabama every year as well. So that's a thing, right? I'm pretty sure Nick Saban lost that to Tennessee since he's been at Bama one time, and that was his first year in 2007. And these teams have a historic rivalry, Tennessee and Alabama. They play every year on the third Saturday in October or something like that. So, and Alabama wins every single time. It's unbelievable. But this week, Alabama's hosting Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin is quite a character. He talks a lot. I don't think his team's going to be able to back it up. Alabama's the real deal. I mean, I feel like college football's ranking should have like a tiered aspect to them as well. Like Alabama's in a tier by themselves. And, I think they'll demonstrate that on Saturday. Alrighty. On to the guys who get paid to play football.
Well, we haven't talked about the NBA yet.
Oh, did I skip something?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, the NBA? Oh, okay. Forgive me for not being super duper enthused on the NBA. Something I am happy to hear. Over 90% of the NBA is vaccinated. There's some high profile fools that are refusing to get vaccinated. Kyrie Irving, who thinks the earth is flat. Why? Bradley Beal said some dumb stuff recently. These people act like they're some sort of deep thinking philosopher types, right? They're like, oh, well, we're not sheep. You got to do your own research and think for yourself. Like, you don't have to think for yourself when the right path is so obvious. Okay. So, you need to be hit upside the head with a cast iron skillet. Just like this has gotten ridiculous. And then someone named Andrew Wiggins. I don't even know who that is. So New York City and the city of San Francisco aren't allowing unvaccinated people to enter the arenas. And that includes players. So again, if you're one of the aforementioned fools who doesn't want to get vaccinated for whatever reason you might
Is
have.
that right? It includes the players too.
Yep.
Yes.
That rules.
That's
I
why
love
why
that.
it's such a big deal for Kyrie Irving because he
Yeah, 'cause
plays in New
he's gonna-
York.
yeah.
And Andrew Wiggins, who plays for the Golden State Warriors, who are now located in San Francisco, and those are the two places where these new rules apply. Now, there's something weird about it where, for whatever reason, if you're a road team's player or from a different city at least, you're given an exemption for being an out of location individual. So if Kyrie Irving goes to play the Warriors, he can suit up, which in Chase Center. But if he tries to play at the Barclays Center, then he has to sit, or he doesn't have to sit. He has to not be in the building. He's not even allowed to sit. So interestingly enough, though, it doesn't apply if the Nets are playing the Knicks at Madison Square Garden because he's not out of the city of New York.
Right.
So he's not actually there's no repeal for that because you're already a local player in the city of New York.
Right.
You just play in Brooklyn instead of in Manhattan. So,
wow.
I mean, that's a huge deal, though, because that's 41 home games, potentially, and then all of your home playoff games, which you kind of need to suit up for those if you're Kyrie Irving. We saw last year your team kind of needed you. You were controlling a series against the eventual NBA champs, and then you got hurt, and it all fell apart. So, it's Kyrie's obviously in a different universe and lives in an alternate reality. He's liking some weird groups to talk about how the jab is some satanic ritual thing and yada, 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 whatever.
Of course he is.
And then of course, everybody's, well, that doesn't mean he supports that. I'm like,
yes, it does.
Just
when
stop.
When you like a tweet or post on social media, you are endorsing the message it sends.
Yes.
You
exactly.
personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things about this to me was the fact that Ted Cruz tweeted about how he stands with Kyrie Irving and Bradley Beal, Andrew Wiggins. It's like, okay, two things on that. One, I didn't see you standing with them last year on the social justice issues that NBA players were advocating for. And two, one would think that Ted Cruz standing with you on this would immediately get these guys booking appointments to get the jab.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a scared straight situation where you find out Ted Cruz agrees with me. I better run to Walgreens to get these shots. My goodness, I have erred badly. This is where I am at this point in my life. But I think that the most important thing that often was overlooked when Rolling Stone or whoever were writing stories about this was the fact that 90% of the league is vaccinated, which is a higher percentage than, obviously, the population of the United States at large. It took a lot longer for the NFL to get their ducks in a row. I'm not sure what their percentage is as a league. It's pretty high now.
It is pretty high. I don't know if it's at 90 or a little bit above 90, but definitely in that ballpark.
Yeah, but the point is, it's the NBA still has another month or so, a few weeks before the season actually starts. So that number is going to continue to rise as the urgency of it to get it done continues to go up.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with the NFL. Training camp, preseason, we saw the numbers quickly rise.
Yeah, people started to realize, wow, my life is going to be comparatively worse than my teammates because of the protocols I'm under, because I didn't get vaccinated. I should probably just get this done, even if I don't want to or don't think it's good for me or whatever. Ultimately, just bite the bullet and do it. And the thing is, I don't really... At this point, I'm not really all that interested in fighting with anti-vaxxers. We know that their position is coming from an area of stupidity, not really anything worth debating. But what irritates...
There's nothing to debate.
Yeah, what irritates me more is if you're going to believe that crap, okay, but at least show some respect for everybody else around you and, be a little bit aware of, hey, maybe I should wear a mask. Maybe I should maintain some level of social distancing. Maybe I should be more careful. But of course, we know that the people with the same...
If y'all are vaccinated and it works so well, why do I need to wear a mask?
If with the trepidations about the vaccination not being real, it's all made up for the purposes of I want to do what I want. Well, then you're going to fall under the same umbrella as the jackass that thinks that, hey, it doesn't matter if I'm breathing in somebody's face while unvaccinated and not wearing a mask because it's all about me. That's what you are. You're not a deep thinker. You're not smarter than everybody else. You're not courageous. You're not avoiding being a sheep. You're just a selfish prick. That's all there is to it. And I hate to tell you that because that's what you are. And people who defend you are completely clueless because they're trying to sit there and say, oh, you're making a stand. You're making a stand for selfishness and stupidity and cruelty. That's what you're making a stand for.
I also
so
love
congratulations.
when they accuse people who are getting vaccinated. They called them sheep. And, y'all are being sheep by following all the ridiculous people who are saying that the vaccine...
Y'all are taking livestock dewormers, man.
Yes,
you're gonna talk to us.
Dewormer.
And we're the sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're the dumb animals being led around. Right.
We're the ones who aren't actually making free-thinking choices to get vaccinated.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Morons.
The part of this that I really enjoy is that unvaccinated players who have to miss games because of local vaccine requirements in arenas will not be paid for those games.
Ooh. I mean,
So,
it makes sense, but
if you're Kyrie Irving, how much money is Kyrie Irving making this year?
A lot.
So,
Like 35 million a year.
35
take a
million a
significant
year.
percentage of that a lot that he is making and take it away.
That'd be
take
half a lot.
I
Yes.
feel like he'll miss that.
Yeah,
Probably.
It's not my $18 million, but like, if I'm Kyrie Irving, I would prefer to have $18 million over not having it. So, that'll just be too bad, I guess. I'm sure Kyrie will fall down some sort of rabbit hole or fall off the edge of the earth in his free time.
I would be interested to know like what they're gonna do with like that money that is allocated for these players, but then potentially doesn't actually get paid to them. Like, feel like that could be money that you use to put toward, educating more people about the vaccine, or
get a new player instead.
or that too.
Well, the problem though is that while this is obviously mostly going to affect players that play for the Knicks, the Nets, and the Warriors, there are still other teams that aren't really all that interested in trading for you if you're not vaccinated. Like, you can't tell me that Philadelphia is just lining up to trade for Kyrie Irving knowing that he could get the whole damn team sick because he didn't bother to do his due diligence and get his shots. So, I mean, it's kind of telling that that's where we are with this. And, Andrew Wiggins was being talked to by the greater area San Francisco doctors about the severity of COVID and all the stuff that's happened. And he kind of was like, yeah, that's nice. I don't care. Like, that was pretty much his response there. And now he's acting like I'm sticking by my beliefs as long as I possibly can. I'm like, and then somebody asks him, well, what are those beliefs? It's none of your business. I'm like, okay, so there are none. You can't actually articulate what your beef is with this, other than you don't want to do it. Which, frankly, sorry, that's not good enough.
Also, I mean, do you want this type of person on your team to play a team sport if the guy only is so selfish not to get the vaccine for against a pandemic that has ruined the entire world for the better part of 2 years now? Like what does he care about his 11 teammates then? If he can't just do this simple thing.
Yeah,
like this isn't the type of guy that I want in my locker room.
Well, the word is that Kyrie Irving has been floated or had been floated as a trade piece for various teams like Philadelphia, maybe in a swap for Ben Simmons or something like that. And Kevin Durant has put his foot down and said, you're not trading him. And so now Kevin is feeling like he's responsible for Kyrie Irving's vaccination status. And so he is trying his damnedest to urge Kyrie Irving to see reason, which, good luck
with that.
Good luck,
good luck
Kevin.
with that.
And, Kyrie's also put the Nets in a box because he's basically said, if you trade me, I'm going to retire. And so that means that nobody's going to be interested in trading for him. Although somebody did, in a smart-ass fashion suggest, hey, the Kings ought to trade for him, and then he retires and you just get rid of all the cap money and you clear your cap space. I'm like, that's actually pretty smart if you're into that type of thing. But I find it all so nauseating to hear these guys when you know that just about every other country in the world, including a lot of the developed countries, would kill to have the supply of vaccines that the United States does. And these rich pricks come in here with their nonsense about how everything's, about me and my health and this, that, and the other, and I can make my own decisions, and I'm smarter than everybody, and that's a HIPAA violation, even though it's not. It's just, it's maddening how selfish people are being about this. But I guess that's par for the course at this point where we are in 2021 in the United States. It's appalling.
Yes, very much so. Alrighty. Now on to the NFL. So we will start with the Ravens, who I think are trying to kill me. Why do all the games come down to the last second every single week?
You thought you were going to get some relief being in the 1 o'clock time slot.
Yeah,
playing
1
against the
o'clock
Lions.
Nuts.
against the Lions. Ravens should win by 20. It should be over by halftime. We'll just cruise to a victory. And that was not the case at all. Ravens got up 13-0. They couldn't execute in the red zone. I will buy Hollywood Brown a one-way bus ticket to wherever he wants to go.
As long as it's not Baltimore.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about him catching COVID because he can't catch anything. My God, he dropped 3 touchdown passes on Sunday. So all these people's like, oh well, Lamar can't throw, and he's got very few yards per completion or per attempt, and all it's got is yada yada yada. Like, well, if you watch football for 5 minutes, you'd see that his receivers either quit on their route and allow the defensive back to just catch it like a punt, uncontested, or he gets the ball right in the breadbasket and drops it on the ground. It's unbelievable, and I cannot take it anymore. Catch the ball or go sit down.
Can we make that the title?
I don't know how to spell that.
Yeah, that's going to require a little bit of and the thing is, on the interception Lamar threw, they showed they had the all 22 of it, which NFL Game Pass. Where are you at with the all 22s? You promised that at the beginning of the year. We're now heading into week 4. It's still not there. I need my all 22. That's the only reason why I pay for the service. Let me get my all 22. Rant over. Anyway, on Lamar's interception, the issue wasn't even so much that Marquise Brown gave up on the route and allowed his defender to pick it on a pass to him. The issue was his role was to run a go route and take his defensive back to beat cover 3 and take him up the field. And Lamar was targeting Sammy Watkins on a deep cross. And so since Marquise Brown quit on his route and just sat at the sideline right where Sammy Watkins' path was, his corner came off of him when the ball was thrown and was right there to pick the ball off. Like, all he had to do was keep running, and his corner chases him up the field, and Watkins is open, and Lamar threw a pretty good ball. It was a catchable ball for Watkins, except for the fact that there was a damn defender standing right there when he shouldn't have been there. I mean, that's just bad football. And, people were sitting there saying, I feel bad for Marquise Brown. And the thing is, I'm not one to sit there and say, hey, you make all this money to catch footballs. It's not even about that for me. It's about, I recall him last year acting like a big baby on social media for not getting enough targets and this, that, and the other. And
does he wonder why?
And we said on this podcast, well, that's because you're not good enough. You don't get open enough. You don't generate separation. And you drop a lot of footballs. Well, you dropped 3 would-be touchdowns in this game that your team won by 2 on a miracle. And I guess we'll get to that.
Yes. So I had been starting to get the sense that, certainly Lamar Jackson, his star is very bright on this team, right? Like, he gets a lot of attention and certainly deserves it. But I've been starting to feel like, Justin Tucker as an all-time great in this league had sort of been getting overshadowed in the past year or so. Like, we hadn't seen anything spectacular or crazy out of him until this Sunday. So I was watching a very grainy and delayed stream of the game, and I got an alert. I mean, I saw the 4th and 19 play, and like, okay, well, I guess the game's not over. But I was still in my mind trying to figure out how am I going to explain to people on this podcast, especially, how the Ravens figured out how to lose to the Detroit Lions, who never win any games ever. And the Ravens are supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. You can't go to Detroit and lose. That's not what Super Bowl contenders do. So I was, putting that together in my head. And then I get an ESPN alert saying, 66-yard made field goal, final score 1970. I'm like, what? Because sometimes ESPN, they send out alerts that aren't right sometimes. And like, I can't believe all of them, to be honest. So like, say, for example, in baseball, if somebody scores a run, but then they overturn it on replay, they don't send out a correction ESPN alert. So you'll just have the score wrong. So I'm like, well, I need to see this for myself. And sure enough, the kick went in for an NFL record. And this is the only record. I mean, this is one of the few records that Justin Tucker didn't have in his career at this point, that he was able to get by now. So like, he's already the most accurate kicker of all time. And, the 61-yarder he made in 2013, also in Detroit, to steal a game from the Lions. That was his career long. So to do it on a 66-yarder is just spectacular. And, reminded everybody, like, hey, I'm an all-time great in this league. And y'all better not forget that.
That kick went up, and I was like, oh, man, good for him. He, like, put it online. There's no way it's going to go through. And then it doink off the crossbar, and then I'm like, oh, man, that was really close. I'm impressed. And then you see the indentation of the ball hitting the net. You're like,
kicking that,
holy crap, that went in?
Yeah, the call on it was great, too. I forget what the announcing team was, but
Greg Gumbel
that was
and
Greg Gumbel.
Adam Archuleta.
Yeah, Greg Gumbel was outstanding. As normal, Greg Gumbel's he's a pro's pro. But, yeah, I was watching that, and I was watching it with my dad, and so the kick went up, and my dad was like, holy crap, he nailed it. I was like, Dad, you got to remember, it's 66 yards. It's probably going to be short. Because we watched the 68-yarder, which we will get to. That one was also online for Matt Prater, but it was not in. And so I was like, you gotta wait till the end here. It might not. And then we hear bang, and I'm like, yep, there it is. But I was like, damn, that was really close. I can't believe he should be rewarded just for that, for the fact that he even hit the crossbar. And then I see the ball go up in the air. I was like, wait, did that ball go over? And I'm like, yeah, it went over. I was like, my goodness. I was like, grab the phone, Tucker, and full caps. Like, oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw. And but I mean, it's appropriate though, because I know that there have been a lot of great kickers in this league. Adam Vinatieri comes to mind first and foremost because of his clutchness and all that stuff. But as far as just watching a kicker do his work, Justin Tucker is easily the best I've ever seen. And he's the one guy where I'm actually interested in watching him kick, because it just looks good coming off his foot.
Yeah,
he booms the ball so impressively.
It's very serendipitous that he really likes opera, because every time he comes up to kick and it comes off his foot, you can almost hear opera music in the background. It's just that pretty to watch.
Yeah, watching him kick feels almost like watching Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton or Vladdy Jr. hit a home run. Like, it's got that kind of a vibe to me, where it's just such a cool display of specialty, but also there's some athleticism that goes with being able to kick the ball that far, and the trajectory is always just so perfect. It's usually on a shorter kick, like a 48-yarder, it's always got a ton of verticality. It's like, yeah, that's going in. That one's not swerving to the left or the right. That's just an awesome kick. And so, yeah, he should have this record because he is the most accurate kicker ever, because he's prolific from long range, which is, frankly, he's better at that than a lot of guys like Adam Vinatieri were. I mean, not many people are that reliable from 50+ like he is, but it's just, it was something special to see. And, of course, rewatching it, noticing he did a little crow hop beforehand, which is typically not in the kicker's bag. He kind of went Happy Gilmore on it to get the distance, but hey.
That's what Harbaugh said.
Yeah, whatever works, works.
I mean, the amazing part to me is the spot where he's kicking it from is on the other side of the Lions logo on the field. Right? So, not only does he have to kick it the whole length of the field to the goal line, but then over the end zone and over the cross. It's unbelievable. And then, over my football watching life, it was Tom Dempsey who had the 63-yard record. And every now and then in Denver, somebody would try from 64, at the end of a half or something. And I think Prater made one of those, maybe Jason Elam or somebody.
Yeah, Jason
somebody
Elam
else.
Tied it,
Yeah. Matt Elam was a defensive back for the Ravens who sucked.
Yeah, he was bad. I remember his name getting called a lot for getting burned.
Yes. Yeah, he was toastable. Somebody, a couple people got 64, but this record was shattered, right? This is 2 more yards than the old record. when all the times that had been broken before was just by one. So to break this record, somebody's going to have to go from 67. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, if there was anybody that could hit a 66-yarder where I was like, okay, they don't look completely stupid for lining up for this, it was Justin Tucker. Like, anybody else, I'd be like, nah, you need to try Hail Mary. Like, you can't try to pull this off. But with Justin Tucker, I'm like, it's worth a shot. And it was, because he won them the game. So that was awesome.
And shout out to Harbaugh for the Onions to attempt this way to try to win the game, right? Rather than a Hail Mary or a pitchy woo-woo play.
I will say, though, just in fairness, there should have been a delay of game penalty before that.
Oh, absolutely.
That
was one of the things I could see on the grainy feed I was watching. Like, the play clock is expired, and
it's been expired.
The center still has the ball.
And it's still been expired.
And
y'all still have time to look up and see it. No, you're not going to throw the flag?
Dead
okay.
red for like 3 seconds. It was really bad. And this is the full Lions lose a heartbreaker package. They give up a 4th and 19, which is just classic Lions ineptitude.
From their own 16.
And then,
the game was over.
And then they get beat on a miraculous play, and the refs screw them over. Like, all three happened on one drive. And that's just like
those were 3 consecutive plays.
Yeah, every time we see the Lions play and they lose a game like this, it's because one of those 3 things happened. Well, this time all 3 happened. Like, whether it was Aaron Rodgers throwing a Hail Mary, or the refs deciding to call illegal hands to the chest twice to put the Packers in field goal range on sacks, which is just unbelievable in that Monday night game. It's just unreal bad luck. It might have been a Sunday night game, but that was just brutal. And then this happens, and I'm just like, and you got idiots on Twitter saying stuff like, it's like, don't you know that the TV broadcast, the clock's never right? I'm like, if it was never right, they wouldn't have it on there, you dope. Right. Of course it's right.
Like, they usually connect it to the scoreboard in the stadium.
Yeah, so
it is exactly right.
Some people were trying to say that the play clock on the TV broadcast was 5 seconds off. I'm like, are you stoned? Have you ever heard that? Greg Gumbel was counting with you.
Right.
Like, and he was not looking at the graphic. He was looking at the game.
Right.
Because he was in the building.
Yes. He's in the arena. He's got the big gold play clock with the big numbers saying 3, 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, snap. It's just like, I was like, wow, they're really just not going to call this. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Ravens got bailed out for playing like crap against an inferior team. So they're going to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed this week at practice. They should be ready to roll in Denver. We cannot have a repeat performance. Just the way the Ravens played and executed their. Corey's making a face. Corey's making the skeptic face, like, we'll get to his game picks shortly. Oh, jeez, Orioles. It's now 3-0, Boston. So they better be ready to roll in Denver on Sunday. And just be looking sharp and crisp and executing in the red zone. And maybe not throwing to Hollywood Brown as much. Let's see. Miles Boykin and Rashad Bateman returned to practice today. They were on the IR for the first 3 weeks of the season. So hopefully they can make an impact and catch the ball. Just catch the ball. Right? You don't have to do anything fancy once you catch it. Just catch it and fall down. Just do that. That would be an upgrade over what Hollywood Brown does. Corey, you put in here Dan Campbell, good grief. What did he do to lose the Ravens this game? Or to lose the Lions this game this week?
He had a rough game in general coaching, but there were a few places in particular that he kind of mucked this up. So the Lions didn't score in the first half. They should have scored, though. So they had a 4th and 1 late in the first quarter on the Ravens side of the field. And their kicker, brand new, hasn't kicked very many long field goals. In fact, I don't think he had kicked a field goal longer than 30 yards in his very short NFL career at that point. And it was going to be more than 50 yards if they lined up for the field goal. So understandably, they decided, well, we're going to line up. It's 4th and 1. We're in plus territory. Let's go ahead and line up and go for it. No problems there whatsoever. But they decided to go with a hard count instead of actually running a play. Darren Fells false starts, and that bumps them back 5 yards. They wind up purposefully taking a delay of game penalty to lose another 5 yards so that they actually have room to punt. And they wind up not scoring on that drive or any other drive in the first half. If they had actually gone for that 4th down, and if they had converted it and gotten to a point where they could either get in the end zone or, kick a reasonably length field goal, that could have made the difference in this game. Right there.
I mean, considering they lost by 2.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, let's fast forward to the 4th quarter, because this is really where you win and lose games. There's just under 2 minutes left. Detroit has a 3rd and 9 inside the red zone. They decide they're going to run the ball, despite the fact that they've already been stuffed on 2 straight plays on this drive. Baltimore knows that they're going to run the ball. It is so obvious that they're going to run the ball that they send an all-out blitz. They're running single coverage on the outside, and instead of actually letting Jared Goff, and I get it's Jared Goff, I would also be nervous putting the ball in his hands, but instead of giving him a chance to throw it to somebody, whether on the outside or TJ Hawkinson over the middle, somebody, they run the ball. Jamal Williams gets taken down for a 4-yard loss. And yeah, they wound up making the field goal, taking the lead. But, be aggressive. Win the game. If you don't convert it, you're not in any worse position. You're still going to have to kick the field goal. So, recognize that Baltimore is going to try and stop the run here because they know what you're trying to do, and take advantage of it. Then Baltimore gets the ball back. They've got a 4th and 19, and the Lions make 2 crucial errors. One, they decide to play prevent defense, which, we all know that prevent defense just doesn't really work. It works against bad quarterbacks. Against good quarterbacks, it doesn't work. This is why anytime that Aaron Rodgers gets the ball with less than a minute to go in the game and down by 3 or fewer points, anytime Tom Brady gets the ball in that situation, anytime Lamar Jackson gets the ball in that situation, you have a pretty good chance of winning the game, because they don't adjust for the fact that they're playing a good quarterback who knows how to play against prevent defense. But to make matters worse, with Baltimore facing that 4th and 19, Dan Campbell inexplicably calls a timeout and actually gives Baltimore a chance to scheme against that defense. That's how they got an open receiver downfield, and Lamar easily completed a pass past the sticks to get that first down. Why are you calling a timeout there and bailing Baltimore out?
It seems a little nitpicky to me, dude.
I feel like that timeout was appropriate. I mean, that's why?
Hey,
why? It's
why?
4th and 19.
You have Lamar Jackson on the run. They've already lost 9 yards. You've got the momentum. Now you call a timeout and you allow Baltimore a chance to reset. You give Greg Roman a chance to actually see that the Lions are running a deep zone and scheme a play against it. If you would just let Baltimore run a play, they're already on their heels. Take advantage of that. When you smell blood in the water, you go for the kill. You don't back off and say, you know what, I'm going to give you a chance to think about this and, try to design an escape route from this situation. No, you attack. And the Lions did not attack.
Oh, I mean, I think that timeout was appropriate. If I remember correctly, the clock was stopped anyway after an incomplete pass or something, or maybe Lamar ran out of bounds.
Okay, but the Ravens still have to get stuff done within the confines of the play clock, and you just gave them extra time.
Oh, I mean, what what brilliance can you invent over 30 seconds, right? Like the plays are installed and practiced all week.
Well,
like
right,
you
but
can't
you
come
just
up
gave
with
them
anything
more than
new.
30 seconds.
Okay, 60 seconds. I'm sorry.
That's a big difference in the NFL.
I mean, come on, man. We're talking about a young team with a new head coach, and it's 4th and 19. Generally, I'm not too worried about scheme in that situation. I'm worried about execution. If my team executes, they're going to get off the field. So I'm going to call a timeout and make sure that everybody knows what the hell their assignment is, and they execute it. They got burned. It happens. But I'm not going to sit there and say, man, Campbell blew the game by calling a timeout. The Lions stink. And so they stunk, and so they give a 4th and 19. That's what happens when you stink. I'm not gonna sit there and pin it all on Dan Campbell just because you don't like
I'm
it.
gonna pin some of it on Dan Campbell.
just-
I don't dislike Dan
hate
Campbell.
Dan Campbell.
What?
You've been
Where did
crapping
you
on-
get that
You've been
impression?
crapping on him all offseason. You're like, look at the stupid thing Dan Campbell said today. I was like, I wasn't that dumb.
And I was crapping on the Eagles' new coach, whatever his name
You were
is.
definitely
He was the one
crapping
who was
on him,
saying
too.
all the
And-
stupid
and
things.
he sucks.
Yeah,
He ran
he
the ball
does.
twice.
He does.
Twice with a running back against the Cowboys. It was unbelievable. He's terrible.
I actually think Dan Campbell's done a okay job.
Dan Campbell's entertaining. He's fine. I don't have that big of a problem with
He's
him.
got
but
that
he,
team
He
competing.
coached poorly in that
Yeah,
game.
They're playing above their
in
weight
all
class,
the
for
games.
sure.
They're playing hard. They're just bad at football. They lost Jeff Okuda to a season-ending injury last week, right? Like they drafted him number 3 overall a couple years ago. He's a key piece of their team. So, I think Dan Campbell has, in light of his crazy talk press conference about biting kneecaps off and stuff, I think he has overperformed expectations.
Which is hilarious because they're 0-3.
He's still done better than I thought he
Yeah,
would.
they're 0-3, but they've looked somewhat competitive, which we didn't expect, especially given who they played. I mean, who they play in week 1?
San Francisco.
Yeah, they hung with San Francisco. They hung
They
with
had
Green
the
Bay.
ball
They were
late.
winning
They should have
Down
had that
8
game.
points.
against San Francisco.
Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of.
They should have beaten the Ravens.
Yes.
They should have beaten the Ravens. They were up at half against the Packers until Goff
San
turned into
Francisco
Goff.
should have won by much more easily, and then the Lions.
Yeah, the
somehow
Lions,
fought
but the
back,
Lions
yeah.
fought. So they're clearly playing for their coach, which is something that
Yeah,
it
sure.
matters. And
Something
of
the
course,
Jets aren't doing, for example.
Doesn't mean that he didn't have a bad game coaching, though.
I mean, you can argue that he made some strategic mistakes, but I would not compare him to some of the other coaching.
Well,
guys.
sure, and that's why we're talking about him first, because we like to save the best for last on this show.
Oh, okay.
In
Or
this
the
case,
worst
the worst
for
for
last.
last.
Is it actually ordered right, Ben?
I don't know.
'Cause the worst
I don't
has to be Mike McCarthy.
You see, I don't even see. Oh, there
I mean,
he is.
he
Yeah.
is sort of last, except they
Yeah,
they'll
added
put
some
like
guys.
a couple of
Yeah,
sub things because
we'll wrap with him.
yeah.
But Cliff
Yeah.
Kingsbury might be short second.
So yeah, I think that's it on the Ravens. Just like, why it's just got to be so hard every week? Just why are we going through this? We still have a negative point differential for the season, right? We went -6 +1 +2, so they got to tighten that up as well.
Tighten that up.
Yeah, tighten that stuff up exactly.
You're 2-1.
So, speaking of people who need to tighten some stuff up, how about the team and their, I believe, 32nd ranked defense out of 32 teams?
Now, part of me wants to invoke Jalen Hurts and just say, flush that deuce and move on, because I don't.
What happened?
It's just a complete domination by the Bills.
Yeah, but like we knew going into that game
Oh,
that
yeah,
we
they
had
were
no
gonna
chance.
lose,
We
but-
knew that the Bills were going to eat our lunch and then make fun
Tell
of us for
everybody
it.
about it.
But the defense should have competed better than that. This is. Josh Allen didn't look great the first 2 weeks, and then he's back to being.
Yeah, he looked
20
okay the first.
Nah,
couple
he looked
weeks.
terrible. He was missing.
He looked
passes
terrible
left and
against
right.
Pittsburgh.
He missed a few passes, but he was still looking okay.
He looked like 2018 Josh
Yes,
Allen
he did.
against Pittsburgh.
He looked poor, and he didn't look that good against the Dolphins either.
Yeah, but I
even
mean,
with
like
a 35
some of
number.
what Josh Allen did on Sunday, you really can't defend against. Like that first touchdown pass to Emmanuel Sanders, like we had everything covered as well as you could really expect us to. Emmanuel Sanders just ran a great route, and Josh Allen threw a freaking dime.
But where's the pass rush, man?
They flushed him out of the pocket. He was on a dead sprint to the sideline
Yeah,
when he
chase him
threw
down.
against his body.
So chase him down. It wasn't there pretty much all game, just like it hasn't been there in any of the games so far. I mean, does Chase Young have a sack this year?
He has a sack.
Yeah, a sack in 3 games. Where was the pass rush against Danny Dimes and that awful offensive line? They were terrible on Thursday Night Football. And they were just as bad against the Bills.
Oh, they were moving Danny Dimes a lot in the backfield.
Who cares about moving him?
Go
You got to
get him.
tackle him.
I'm saying that the Giants were scheming to move him outside the pocket a lot. So that
the other team has
that cuts down on the
too.
ability for a pass rush to actually even have an impact because he's already out of the pocket.
Okay, but there were
Maybe
plenty of times
is
where
it
he just
because
sat
Danny
back
Dimes
there,
is
too.
sneaky fast, right? Because he's a white guy
He's white.
and runs quickly.
He's a white guy from Duke. He's not
I don't
supposed
think
to
there's
be
anything
fast.
sneaky about it at this point. It's just a matter of whether he's going to be tackled by the turf or not.
Yeah, he falls down and just drops the ball.
It'll never stop being funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead, y'all.
No, I mean,
I don't have anything more to say about this game. They
No,
got
I don't either.
curb stomped. Let's move
yeah,
on.
we knew it was going to happen. So this doesn't move the needle for me on my expectations
It
or
doesn't for
lack
me either.
thereof.
It
with the
doesn't
team.
for me either. I think they're going to stink, and they stink. So there you go.
Okay,
They're
well, I
terrible.
picked
They're
them to
gonna
win
go
the
6-11.
division, and that might have been a poor choice.
I mean, I picked them as my third wild card. I'm not necessarily
not
ready
gonna
to move off of that yet.
That's not going to happen.
I thought that was absurd a month ago.
Me too. And yeah, it still looks
Yeah,
that
still
way
is.
to me. Anyway, we can move on to hating on some coaches.
Alrighty.
More coaches.
So Corey, your boy Cliff Kingsbury, he at the end of the first half in Jacksonville, he sent his kicker out there, who was the previous longest kick ever made record holder.
Yeah, give him a chance to break it by 4 yards. So
Yeah,
you know,
chance to break it by
eat
4
your heart
yards.
out, Justin Tucker. You only had an
he's
opportunity
still at
to
the
do it
time
by
of the
2.
kick. At the time of the kick, he was still the record.
He was.
Yes, that is true. But I mean, he's kicking at sea level, outside.
Not to mention it's Jacksonville where it's humid as hell.
Yeah, that's not
That's not good kicking conditions.
marine layer.
It is steam. I've been to Jacksonville. It is steamy
It's a swamp,
Just-
dude.
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Literally.
I mean,
swamp.
it is.
Yeah,
it is
like-
the Gator Ball.
You know,
so.
think trying to hit home runs in Seattle and then multiply that difficulty by 2 for kicking in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much what you're dealing with, I feel like. So yeah, Cliff Kingsbury decides that it was a tie game, wasn't it, at the time?
Tied at 7.
Yeah, it was a 7-7 game, and instead of just, taking your lumps, y'all should have had this game in hand already going into the half. But, at least it's tied. Let's take it into the half. Let's talk to the guys. Let's figure out what the hell is going wrong and fix it so that we can come out and actually win this game. And instead, he decides that he's going to line his guys up for a 68-yard field goal attempt and then not prepare for the possibility of a return attempt by the Jaguars. If you're going to kick a field goal that long, you got to know that there's a very high probability that not only are you not going to make it, but it's not going to get through the end zone. Somebody's going to have an opportunity to return that thing. And return it the Jaguars did. 109 yards, tying the NFL record for the longest play ever. And all of a sudden, the Jaguars are winning 14-7 going into the half.
Now you're in a dog
13-7 because they missed the
that's
extra
true.
point.
That's true, Evan. Good point. 13-7. Still, y'all are losing to the Jaguars. That is just not okay. That's unforgivable.
It's like you never saw the kick 6. Like anybody could have seen
Y'all-
this coming.
Cliff Kingsbury has been coaching in college for however many years. He had to have seen the Alabama-Auburn game from 2013.
Yeah, if you're not watching the Iron Bowl, I don't know what you're doing. If you're in college football, like, it's like you gotta.
I
watch
mean,
that game.
Even I watched that game live.
Yeah. I watched the end of that game live because Georgia Tech was playing UGA at the time, and we were up 20-0 that day and lost. So that happened.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Just got an
Yes.
alert from MLB. This is interesting. Wander Franco has reached base in 43 straight games, tying Frank Robinson for the most by a player under 21.
Oh,
It's
Good
pretty
for
good.
him.
Hunter Franco is good. He was
He
the
is.
former #1 prospect. Now that belongs to Adley Rutschman. So
Yep.
yes. Let's see.
Anyway,
Moving on, sticking in the category of terrible coaches, Mike McCarthy does not know what time it is ever.
he really doesn't. We saw the same thing last week against the Chargers. So like this is 2 weeks in a row out of 3 weeks this season that he has almost cost his team a game because he doesn't know what time it is. He doesn't understand how to manage the clock. He refuses to use his timeouts in a way that will benefit his team.
It's like he thinks football is played instead of with a clock, but with a sundial. Like he's just kind of in space interpreting or something.
And the thing is, clock management is something you can learn as a coach. It's not something you can forget. So if he doesn't have it now, he never had it, which makes you wonder just how freaking good those teams must have been. In particular, the Super Bowl winning team with the Packers must have been to cover up for his incompetence with clock management.
Or the
That
team
they
next
never
year that
put
was
him in a
15-1.
position where he had to manage the clock. Because if they had, things would not have turned out the way that they did that season. They would not have made it to the Super Bowl, much less beaten the Steelers.
I just don't understand though how you. It's one thing for one guy, as a single point of failure, to have a brain cramp and not call a timeout. But so it's 2nd and 31. He's got 2 timeouts in the back pocket, and my thought process was, okay, if the Eagles pick up an absurd amount of yards on this second down play and get it to like 3rd manageable somehow, where it's like 3rd and 10 or even like 3rd and 12, I would say maybe don't call the timeout because you might not get the football back. You might be giving them extra plays. But then they gained 7 yards. It was 3rd and 24. It's like at that point you got to call a timeout because like there's no way you're going to give up a 3rd and 24. You got to take the chance there. But he lets that timeout go by the wayside, and I even rationalized a little bit. I was like, okay, you probably want to call your timeouts when you don't control the tempo, like in that situation. But even so, I understand wanting to have one in the back pocket, so in case you need to stop the clock to get the field goal unit on the field, whatever, to get a drive. I understand wanting to have at least one, so maybe you let the 40 seconds tick. Optimally, it's not a good idea, but I at least understand the logic a little bit. Then on 3rd down, they don't even come close to picking up the first. They hand it off to Miles Sanders for one of his 2 carries, and he picks up a lot of yards, but he never really got close to the sticks. And then Mike McCarthy still wasn't calling a timeout. I'm like, wait, what's going on? The ref literally went over to him.
Yeah, I loved the way that Nick Wright on FS1 was describing this. He was like, the ref was going to him like, dude, are you sure you don't want to call a timeout? Like you might want to call a timeout.
Like the ref didn't want to be away from Mike McCarthy because he knew, okay, this is a situation where he's going to want to call a timeout, so I want to be nearby so we can do this as efficiently as possible so extra time doesn't take. And then no timeout call, and the ref's just like, really? Okay. He gave away a possession. I mean, that's a whole possession right there. With 1minute and 40 seconds, even with no timeouts, you could realistically score a touchdown.
Yeah,
it's very likely that you could get at least a field goal.
This is Dak Prescott we're talking about. This is another one of those good quarterbacks where if you give him some time on the clock, he can make some things happen.
And he's playing a Cheeks team. Like, the Eagles are ass. They're terrible. In all phases, including coaching. Because Nick Sirianni stinks. He handed the ball to Miles Sanders 2 times. I'm going to keep reiterating that. Out of frustration, not just for my fantasy team, but because they're so stupid. Like, they were in the game for most of the first half. It wasn't like they just had to throw. They just refused to run the ball, and the run game on the occasions that Jalen Hurts actually handed it to somebody else was working. But, whatever. They just quit on that half, and I'm just like, weren't they only up a touchdown at the half because of that? I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, you're keeping the game close at the half when you don't have to. Like, you are the better team. When you're the better team, you don't want to limit possessions. You want to expand them.
Right.
Because that means that there's less variance, and over the long haul, your superiority is going to show out. You don't want it to turn into a 7-possession game. You want it to be a 12-possession game. Well, apparently Mike McCarthy figured, we got one to spare. Screw it. let's just not worry about that. And it didn't bite them because, again, the Cowboys are just so much better than the Eagles. They absolutely blew them out in the second half, and we were pretty much resorting to Eli Manning giving the camera the double bird to have some entertainment out of it. But
Archie Manning,
with his bulge being present, all of that.
good Lord.
But it's dumb stuff like that where you play the Rams in the playoffs, or you play the Buccaneers in the playoffs, or you play the 49ers or the Packers again, or not again, but you play the Packers and you might need that extra possession because you have Dak Prescott.
I mean, if you're going to beat one of those teams, it's probably going to be by a narrow margin. And when you're playing in a game that has a narrow margin of victory, clock management is crucial.
You're one of the best offenses in the league. You can't give away your own offensive possessions. That's not acceptable coaching.
I want to bring up a clip I saw. I think it was Dominique Foxworth on Get Up. That as the head coach, you don't have a whole lot of roles in game. Like you have usually an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and a special teams coach. Like your job during the game is to just clap and to pat some butts and to know when to call timeout.
I might take an issue with that because if your job is to clap, then we can't really make fun of Jason Garrett anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's all he did was clap. I guess
Apparently he was fulfilling the role of the job.
Yeah.
Jerry seemed very happy for a long time.
Yeah. The point is, though, as the head coach, people have brought up, does Mike McCarthy have a clock management guy? He is the clock management guy. That's all he does during games. That's all he should be doing during games. And he can't even do that.
Didn't the Falcons hire a coach a couple years ago? Dan Quinn hired a guy to be their clock manager, to pay attention to the clock and notify him if they should be doing something.
Yeah, and that's stupid because the head coach is supposed to do that. And that's clearly a sign that you're not running a very tight ship when you have to litigate or delegate tasks to people who you could hire off the street to do. I'm not a football coach. I can't scheme. I can't sit there and design an offense.
I know how to manage a clock at the end of a half. Though.
Yeah, I've played enough Madden to know how to do that. Come on.
I saw that tweet as well.
Yeah, so, I can certainly handle that. But even if I didn't, I would still be able to say, okay, here's how much time's left. Here's how much time we need to score. We have this many timeouts. And oh, by the way, this is going to come up in a little bit very shortly. Offense is more important than defense in football for one reason only. It doesn't just affect how many points you put up versus your opponent. It also affects the tempo of the game. The defense can't control the tempo. The defense has no way of making you snap the ball earlier than you want to. They have no way of making you call run plays instead of pass plays. The only thing they can do is stop you from picking up first downs or forcing you to turn the ball over. So if you have an offense on the field, you can go as fast as you need to. You can go as slow as you need to, as long as you can keep moving the chains. So why are you saving timeouts for when you're on offense when 40 seconds apiece are running off the clock? How often have we seen, okay, you run a play, you picked up 25 yards, you down the ball with a spike, 15 seconds ran off the clock. Maybe I should have had that timeout spent when they were running 40 seconds off the clock, because a timeout when they have the ball means a lot more than when we have it, because we can control how much time between plays.
Yep.
And this is a situation where it's just hey, 2 timeouts, now I've only got 20 seconds. What are you going to do with those 2 timeouts? Because the plays do take a little bit of time.
Right.
There's no way to run a 0-second play. That's not a thing. Unless there's a penalty pre-snap. They just keep doing offsides. That's cool. But it's not realistic to be able to do anything in 20 seconds, even if you have all your timeouts. And yet teams seem to just obsess over doing that and not calling them when they're supposed to. It's really simple. And yet professional coaches that are paid specifically to do this, to manage the game like this, just can't do it. I mean, even good coaches.
It is multiple coaches.
Oh, yeah.
McCarthy was far from the only offender on this.
Yeah, there were people that had opposite problems with this. I mean,
looking at you, Kyle Shanahan.
He ruined a Super Bowl doing this, and he hasn't learned.
Yeah. Yeah, I was half asleep on this game. I was tired. I ran a 5K on Sunday.
No, you didn't tell me that.
Oh, yeah. The Duluth Donut Dash. So
nice.
It was fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They gave you like donuts at the finish line?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So I by the time it got to Sunday night, and after and during the Ravens game, I was exhausted.
I fell asleep like in the second half of that game. I woke up with 5 minutes to go.
I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I was in dreamland. So what did Kyle Shanahan screw up this time?
So, I guess Corey's watching too, but so the 49ers are down by 6 points.
Yeah.
After Jimmy Garoppolo had a hilariously embarrassing fumble that allowed the Packers to kick a field goal to push it to 6,
I did see that.
which created part of the problem because if he doesn't do that, they're up by 4 points instead of being up by 1, which means Packers need a touchdown, which completely changes the trajectory of the game. But anyway, so they get the ball back after the 49ers defense does a nice job keeping the Packers out of the end zone and putting the game away. And so they drive down the field. Jimmy Garoppolo is making plays, kind of. Like he's throwing the ball and it's being caught by his team. So that's the best you can really hope for because he looked like he was getting skirted in the pocket. He was he was ducking out of throws, looking kind of like Tom Brady did under pressure last year where he threw a lot of picks. But George Kittle was bailing him out. Deebo Samuel bailed him out at least once or twice. Ayuk had a nice play. Yeah. So they end up getting down the field pretty quickly. And they have all 3 timeouts, and the Packers have blown all of theirs somehow, which I don't know how that happened because they were ahead pretty much the entire game. Where are all your timeouts? So I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, damn. The 49ers can do whatever they want here. They don't have to go super fast. The Packers can't stop the clock at all. They can pretty much score whenever they want to, if they really want to. So I'm thinking, okay, you gotta move the ball. You gotta call the plays you think are gonna work. You can't sit there and say, well, let's chew up clock by running a 3-yard, in a cloud of dust play, because then you might get yourself behind the chains and then you're screwed. Yeah. So you gotta play to try to get down the red zone as quickly as possible. But when it's 1st and 10 from the 12-yard line and there are 43 seconds left and the clock's ticking and you've got all 3 timeouts, eventually you've got more clock than you could ever need. Like you're not gonna run out of time at this point. Because you've got 3 timeouts. You can run at least 6 plays from where you are. And like I said, the clock is ticking. Right? And there's 12 seconds left on the play clock with 43 seconds left in the game.
They snapped the ball.
They snapped the ball. I'm like, why aren't you running this down all the way to zeros before snapping it? And so anyway, they run the play. Garoppolo completes a pass to Kyle Juszczyk over the middle, and he bullies his way into the end zone, which, again, I'm not knocking him. You have to score.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and say no thank you to a touchdown when you need a touchdown in that situation. Like, I'm not blaming the players at all. You've got to make the best out of the plays you run. But you don't have to run them right away. Again, you have the ball. They have no timeouts. You are entirely in control of what's happening on the clock. Nothing can stop you except for their defense stopping you from getting in the end zone. So why are you running plays before you have to? Why are you giving that bad man, as Stephen A. Smith regularly calls him, 37 seconds? Because I said on the chat, dude, that's too much time.
Yeah.
And Corey was like, nah, I think they're toast. I think Corey's being pessimistic because he picked the Packers and he needed them to win.
I was definitely being pessimistic because of that. It was not because I did not believe in Aaron Rodgers. It was entirely pessimism on my part.
Yeah, so I was looking and I was like, they can throw the ball over the middle here and still get up the field and spike the ball. You take away 10, 12 seconds off the clock, they can't do that anymore. They have to go sidelines. And then the team knows you have to do that. So if you grow a pair and decide to go over the middle, okay, but you've sealed your fate because you're going to run out of time. So the sword of Damocles is hanging over your head at that point. 37 seconds left, that's not an issue. Also, questionable defense. How do you let Devontae Adams get open for chunk plays twice? Like, he's the guy you have to watch out for. Just questionable defense there. And again, this is a situation where maybe unlike Dan Campbell, I'm calling those timeouts to make sure our defense has it right. Because momentum doesn't mean squat to Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't need any extra time to see your defense. He knows what he's going to do. You've got to make sure you take away his best option. And they didn't do that. But again, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons in 2016 when they went to the Super Bowl and they blew that lead. And a big part of the reason they blew that lead is because despite the fact that they were up by multiple touchdowns for virtually the entire second half, they kept snapping the ball with 15, 17, 12, 20 seconds left on the play clock as if they were playing from behind. And lo and behold, Tom Brady leads a touchdown drive that scores the tying touchdown and 2-point conversion with 57 seconds on the clock. If you had run just another handful of chunks of clock for the rest of the game, you easily get it done before the clock expires. Not to mention some questionable decisions on calling pass plays when you're in field goal range and getting sacked and other things like that. Like
Holding.
Well, yeah, holding. We've seen this happen with Shanahan before. We kind of saw it a little bit in the Super Bowl with the 49ers where they were up by 2 possessions and had the ball, and they're slinging it all over the yard even though they're a run-first team. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy Garoppolo throws incompletions, balls get batted, they have to punt, and so you give Patrick Mahomes the ball like voluntarily, basically. You said, hey, we're not all that interested in holding possession. We just want to score more points. Well, what happens when you don't actually succeed? You give Patrick Mahomes the ball with 7 minutes left down 10, which means you lost. Like, you can't win in that situation unless your offense can score, and Jimmy Garoppolo ain't quite that guy. So, just no idea what Shanahan thinks half the time. It's clearly an issue for him, too, understanding how to manage the end of a game. Maybe it's arrogance. Maybe he figures, we'll win no matter what. But the objective of the game is not to outscore your opponent. The objective of the game is to have more points than your opponent when the clock hits 0 in the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter if you're ahead 59 minutes and 23 seconds into the game. It only matters if you're ahead when it says 60 minutes have expired. The clock is an opponent that you have to deal with as much as the other team is. And too many coaches don't seem to realize that.
I mean, you got to be careful with some of these offensive geniuses, right? Like, people who they figure out these great schemes and all this kind of stuff. Like, can you actually execute it and win games with that? I think that's sort of an underrated portion of coaching is like, translating your X's and O's to wins. So it sounds like the Niners blew it again.
And to be honest, though, the Packers outplayed the 49ers.
They did.
They looked like the much better team throughout the duration.
49ers were lucky to
The 49ers were lucky to be in the position to win it. But the fact that they were, and the coach made some bad decisions that gave the Packers a little bit more life, cost them the game. And that's something that Shanahan should have to answer for.
Oh, yeah. What about guy I picked to win Coach of the Year?
He still might.
Rookie coach. I mean, they did win. So
yes, they did.
Against Kansas City, 2-time defending AFC champions. What did Brandon Staley do wrong?
Well, firstly,
Corey?
No, I wrote
this was Eric.
Oh,
firstly,
this is Eric.
But warranted.
Yeah, I mean, Corey and I disagree with some of the later stuff, but really the big thing was, I'm trying to remember the exact scenario. So they got into field goal range. Mm-hmm. It was like 3rd and 4?
I think that's right.
And so they tried to pick up the first down. I guess they threw an incompletion. But they were in field goal range at that point. And so they decide, we're not going to try to kick the field goal. We're going to try to pick this up. And maybe that's a smart move because the kicker was apparently struggling that day. It would have been, a 45-yarder?
Yeah,
so?
I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't unmakeable, but it also was not a chip shot.
No, but and also more importantly, as I've mentioned repeatedly, kicking the field goal in that situation would have meant giving Patrick Mahomes the ball, only needing a field goal to win with like a minute left and a timeout.
So I've got no problem with the idea of playing to win the game.
Yeah, well, so they go for it, and they get called for delay a game or a false start. I don't remember which. That pushes it to 4th and 9. And so now you're like, well, damn, now going for it seems kind of dumb. Like, you're still in makeable field goal range, and now it's a tough pickup. But they trot the offense out there anyway, and they go for it. And they call this play that didn't really have, in my opinion, a great chance of success.
No, it didn't.
Like, this wasn't some easy completion schemed play. It was Mike Williams running just a quick, 15-yard out. And Herbert puts the ball in the money, but he's well covered. And the defensive back kind of gets in there and breaks the pass up. But he got there a little early, and the refs flagged him for pass interference, rightfully so.
Yeah, it was
the right
absolutely
call.
Pass interference.
But he didn't even have to do that.
Right.
Like, if he had been a little bit more disciplined, and I got no shade to him, he was trying to make a play, and sometimes things happen. But all it took was just a little bit of variation in how he approached defending that pass, and the game's over. And I'm just like, I can't believe they got that flag there because like they didn't deserve it.
No.
And I'm just like, what the hell's wrong with you? Are you crazy? And so later on, they go down the field, and it looks like, okay, the game's in the bag. They're basically on the goal line with like 35 seconds left. And in my opinion, they should have just sat on the ball and kicked a field goal as the clock expired. But they decided that they wanted to throw for the end zone. And the ball goes up in the air, and I'm thinking, what are they, nuts? Anything can happen on this play. This ball could get picked, any type of nonsense. And the best case scenario is you're giving Patrick Mahomes the ball with time where you don't have to. Now, again, understandably, the kicking situation was supposedly not great that day, but my counter to that argument is if you can't trust your kicker to make a 25-yard field goal or a 23-yarder, why is he still on the roster today? Like, why didn't they find a new kicker this week?
Fine and all, but again, like my point was that if you get the touchdown and if you get the extra point, which apparently was a big if because it didn't happen.
You missed the PAT, at which point I was like, oh my God, they're going to lose
now. But if you get the touchdown and the PAT, then Patrick Mahomes, yes, he has the ball. Yes, he has time, but he doesn't just have to get into field goal range. He has to get in the end zone just to tie it and send it overtime, not to win the game.
I think they could go for two.
You could.
That team is very good at getting two. So.
They could, but that also carries a risk. I just feel like I can understand wanting to get it in the end zone if you can.
Yeah, I feel like if you can avoid even giving Mahomes
at least
the ball
they weren't
for
running
second.
plays with 12 seconds on the clock, on the play clock, and the clock running.
That was just beyond stupid. I just don't know. Especially again, it's understandable if he's a rookie coach, but
Kyle Shanahan has
been around the block, and he was the offensive coordinator of a team that lost a game for that reason, and it's just like, I'm just keep doing the same thing. I'm like, nah, man, come on.
Okay.
So, rough week
right.
for some of these coaches.
Yeah. I feel like Red Zone does this to us, though. Like, we get to see every game, and usually they cut to the big plays, and the big plays are usually a product of bad coaching. So we get a lot of coaches to bash, like Nick Sirianni for running the ball twice. I said it now 5 times, and probably will say it 5 more times before we're done with this podcast, because that was ridiculous.
Somebody else who needs to be bashed is Matt Nagy. It's not on our list, but he should be for being incredibly terrible. Like what was that
3 years ago?
Yeah, Coach of the Year. I correctly predicted him to win Coach of the Year, and he deserved it that year. The Bears were really good. They went to playoffs and lost on the double doink. But like
that look on his face after the double doink, it just felt like all of the coaching acumen just came out of his body in that moment. Like
that would explain a lot
away as well.
Yeah, his soul and football mind just left out into the ether. It's gone now.
And people say that the Ravens are a model franchise and stuff, but like if the Ravens are a model franchise, then when other teams are in the same situation, they should follow the model. So in 2018, the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson. Joe Flacco got injured after, I believe, week 9. The Ravens had a bye week, and in week 11, they started Lamar Jackson and changed everything about what they did on offense completely. So in this situation, the Chicago Bears were starting Andy Dalton. He got hurt. They were going to start Justin Fields, and they didn't do anything different. They just made it worse. Right?
I mean, they did something different. They decided to just let the Browns defenders come through the offensive line on every play.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the Bears' offensive line has sucked. We've known that since
Jay Cutler was there.
Yeah, like I mean, it's God. Like the Bears got
60 times
one
this season.
passing yard on Sunday. They got a passing yard as a team.
Hey,
because
that's an
like once you subtract out all the sack yardage, they got a yard passing and 47 total. That's it for the whole game.
Yeah, I remember at one point in the game, Justin Fields had 17 passing yards and had lost 17 yards on sacks.
Yeah, it sounds like it didn't really change much because he only netted one.
Yeah.
I mean, I just... And people are trying to defend... Some people are trying to defend Nagy, saying, well, you watch the All-22, you can see it's not all his fault. I'm like, I'm not saying it's
He's
all
the
his
coach.
fault. I'm saying a lot of it's his fault. Like, obviously, he's not fully in control of the fact that his team stinks. Like, he can't help the fact that the line sucks, and he's got a rookie quarterback who...
Well, that's the GM's fault, who also needs to be fired.
Absolutely. Ryan Pace has worn out his welcome 3 times over in Chicago. I have no idea how he maintained employment. I understand keeping Matt Nagy around because he at one point showed that he was a good coach, or could coach a team to being not just a playoff team, because last year to me doesn't really even count. Like, they went 8-8 and didn't really deserve to be there and got mollywopped by the Saints. But it just, he showed that in 2018 that he could get this team to be pretty good, and
they won their division.
Yeah, and he got Mr. Trubisky to look serviceable and like a potential franchise quarterback. Like a guy that, with another year in the system, we thought they were going to take another step forward and be a Super Bowl contender. And then it all fell flat, and I can't really explain what happened there. But what I do know is that Justin Fields is a rookie. The biggest knock on him was his pro readiness, given the fact that there were questions about how quickly he can make his reads, and that's something that he's going to have to develop. And so instead of running an offense where you move the pocket a bit, you get him outside on bootlegs because we know he can throw on the run, and we obviously know he's a great athlete.
You run
running
routes
the
that
football.
develop
Where
quicker.
were the design quarterback runs?
They didn't exist.
do that either.
Yeah, none of those. They pretty much just had him back in the pocket. People are like, well, they had a lot of quick read offenses. I'm like, yeah, but that's like the one thing that he's not really able to do right now. So why are you jamming that in the playbook instead of taking advantage of his athleticism? I mean, Lamar Jackson was not nearly the passer that he is today as he was when he was a rookie. That was not really in the bag. So the Ravens made it work even in spite that. They made sure that he had opportunities to get on the move, to take advantage of his physical tools, and not force him to be something that he wasn't quite ready to be yet. Meanwhile,
Lamar ran the ball 20 times a game his rookie year.
Yeah, that was pretty much all he did because they didn't trust him in the passing game yet. And it would be unjustified to take a quarterback that's not quite ready for that type of passing game and say, here, go run the same system that I had Andy Dalton running, while Andy Dalton's like a 35-year-old statue. Who's also been around for a decade plus in the NFL, and you're just a guy who got here a month ago, but we're going to expect you to make quick reads instead of saying, hey, you're fast and you're big and you're strong and you've got a great arm. Let's try to make that work first, and then we'll work on being a pocket passer as we go.
This is what coaching is. You have to put your players in position for success. That's the job. Not to execute your brilliant offense or to show off how well you can, scheme some stuff. It's really much simpler than that. You have to put your players in position to have success. And Matt Nagy just epic failed at that on Sunday. That was pathetic. And if you can't do the basics of just assessing what your athletes are good at and doing that thing, then you shouldn't be the coach anymore. You got to go. You shouldn't be the coach anymore, and you shouldn't be a coach anymore because that was terrible.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Speaking of terrible, we have the worst and the best of week 3 per Football Outsiders quick reads. So Josh Allen was the best. We talked about him a little bit when discussing the team.
And surprisingly, Justin Fields was not the worst.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen just scored again. So, and then the worst, this was not a surprise to me. Zach Wilson, the worst. He's been so incredibly bad. And so I was after the Ravens game, I just had to sit on my couch and lay down and just stare blankly at the ceiling. So I put on the Red Zone, and since the Jets were playing at 4:00 in Denver, they were on Red Zone a bit more often than usual are when they're playing at 1.
Too much.
So Yeah. So I saw some Zach Wilson plays, and like, the Jets' offensive line sucks, and his receivers aren't good, and his coach is new, and he doesn't have like a veteran influence in the quarterback room or anything like that. But like, so like all of that is working against Zach Wilson and not helping him. But then, even times I saw he made some throws outside the numbers that he just bounced uh toward the sideline. Like they just didn't make it there. I don't know if that's footwork or arm strength or lack of concentration or something, but like he wasn't pressured, he wasn't on the move or anything. It was the type of thing where he just takes a snap, turns, and throws it, and he couldn't even do that. Like he was making unforced errors, um, in addition to plenty of forced errors.
Well, that's how you get on the worst side of Football Outsiders quick reads.
Yeah, entirely too much of this game on Red Zone. Every time they cut to it, I was just like, okay, time for me to go to the fridge. I don't really like. It was a decimation by Denver, but it wasn't really. It was a boring decimation. Like it's one thing when you're watching a team beat somebody 35-0, and you're watching a star quarterback light it up, throwing to Tyreek Hill or throwing to Rob Gronkowski or like just a superstar tandem filling it up on the scoreboard. This is more of just a slow, methodical drubbing by Denver because Denver doesn't have a high-powered offense. They've got a steady offense with Teddy Bridgewater, and their defense is good, and the Jets aren't good at anything. So it's just, hey,
No, they're not.
like it wasn't really even like you could really remember. It was like when the Patriots played the Jets, and you look up and suddenly it's like, hey, we've scored 25 points, and they've got nothing, or they've got 6. It's just like, hey, we kind of just blew them out by accident because they're the Jets, and it's intolerable to watch.
Yeah, they're brutal. So a friend of mine's a Jets fan, and I was telling him after the Jets drafted Zach Wilson, like, this guy's going to be good. He's going to be good. And, Zach Wilson is putting a whole lot of egg on my face on this one. Like, he's been terrible. There's no other way to put it. He's been bad.
He's a rookie, and rookies are entitled to being terrible. But I was not as high on Zach Wilson coming out of the draft. I thought that Justin Fields would have been a better pick than him at number 2. But
he's been bad too.
Yeah, but he hasn't played nearly as much as Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson, we've got a 3 full game sample of him just being really struggling. It was funny because we heard in the preseason, man, he's really having a hard time. Like Robert Saleh was making sure we knew Zach Wilson's gonna suck. Then he comes out in preseason, he looks great, and then the real games start, and reality comes with the real games.
Yeah, so a lot of reality on the case of the Jets. They scored 0 this week, so maybe they score more than 0 in their upcoming game against the Tex. No, I don't even know who the Jets are playing. They're going to lose, so it don't matter.
There was a bidding war of $3 for the Titans defense because they were playing the Jets. So.
Oh, the Titans.
Yes.
Yeah. The Titans defense is bad though.
Doesn't matter.
They're toastable.
You actually have to have a little bit of firepower to burn something, and the Jets don't got that. They've got a super soaker.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Running backs, both total and rushing only. The best and worst guys were both the same. So Ezekiel Elliott was the best, and Javonte Williams was the worst. Who was Javonte Williams?
So Javonte Williams is Melvin Gordon's, I guess, backup with the Broncos, but they're sort of a 1A, 1B tandem. I mean, Javonte Williams is averaging 12 or 13 carries a game, and he's been somewhat involved in the passing game. The biggest issue for him was that he had a 1st and goal carry from the 1-yard line that he fumbled and lost, which pissed me off because not only did I lose the 2 points for the fumble and the loss and the fact that it was lost, but I missed out on 6 points for a touchdown. So it was basically an 8-point swing there for me with him in my starting lineup. Ezekiel Elliott had a good game against Philly, presumably, extends his hold on the starting role because, he played really well, but Tony Pollard is still breathing down his back, and I think that Pollard has the legs to outlast Ezekiel Elliott as far as the season goes. I still think that Pollard eventually is going to take over that starting role.
Yeah, Ezekiel's running with some authority this week, though. He was definitely reasserting himself as the guy, because I think at times in the first couple of weeks he had some runs where it's like you could tell he still has it. It's just a matter of, like you said, can he keep it up? Can he sustain it? Not just, drive to drive, but week to week.
I don't know that he has the stamina to maintain it over the course of the season. If he does, more power to him. I mean, I like Zeke. I don't have anything against the guy. And I don't have anything against him as a player. I like to see any running back have success, but I don't know that I'm convinced that he has the stamina to maintain this long term through the season.
We shall see.
Yeah, we'll see. And the best wide receiver tight end was Mike Williams, and the worst was Jalen Waddle. So, Corey, I started Mike Williams this week.
Yeah, you did. And it paid off for you. It was the highest scoring wide receiver of the week.
Like, it worked. Like, that never happens. Like, you start Mike Williams, and then he...
Yeah, usually you bench him, he does well, and then you finally put him in,
the lineup,
and he does nothing.
And Herbert, or back in the day, Rivers, would throw the ball up to him. He'd go for a jump ball, almost catch it, almost make a spectacular catch.
And then come down and get hurt.
And he would lose it on the way down, and then he would come up holding his leg or his arm, and he'd be out for the next 3 drives, and you're like, is he ever going to come back in? And he'd end up with like 2.5 points, and you're just like, I can't.
If he did come back in, he was just a decoy.
Yeah, he would just, when you have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams is talented, but just doesn't seem like he's been able to be consistent. But so far this year, he's been great, and maybe part of it is because Justin Herbert is the truth. I mean, Phillip Rivers was great for a while, but Mike Williams really only got to work with old Phillip Rivers, whereas young Justin Herbert looks like a star.
Yeah. I didn't see Jalen Waddle on the
it was brutal.
The Dolphins.
It was a brutal day. Like, every target seemed like it was dropped. He got absolutely crushed on a couple of throws where, Jacoby Brissett, who I thought played pretty well.
He did. He did.
And I think that Corey was giving him some undue hate.
I was a little bit harsher on him than maybe I needed to be. I won't say that he entirely proved me wrong, but he definitely played much better than I gave him credit for being able to play.
Let me ask you this, though. Jacoby Brissett used to quarterback the Colts. Would you take him over Carson Wentz?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. I would absolutely.
Okay, so at least we're there.
Yes.
But yeah, he played pretty well, but Jalen Waddle, rookie, it's gonna happen. Like, he didn't show me anything that was like, wow, this guy sucks or anything like that. It just wasn't his day. It was kind of like Allen Robinson back in week 1 when Andy Dalton was targeting him a lot but not getting him the ball. So
apparently Allen Robinson has like 86 or 87 receiving yards on the season so far.
I mean,
he is not. He hasn't really done a lot. And a lot of that's because of the offense that he's in right now. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him going forward. One guy that didn't show up in quick reads at wide receiver, who maybe it's understandable for this past week, but he's still been fantastic through the first 3, is Jamar Chase.
Oh yeah.
Not Jamar O'Chase.
Not Jamar O'Chase, but Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase, yes. Yeah, he had another good game. I think he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, which is part of the reason why I was a little bit surprised to see that he wasn't one of the top 5 wide receiver tight ends on the list. But Dalton Schultz also had 2 touchdown receptions.
Yeah, it could just be that, a
that
lot
might
of
have
other
bumped
people
him just over.
Yeah, a lot of people had bigger weeks. It happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we do game picks now, or do we eliminate people from the playoffs?
It's your show. You tell us.
All right. Well, I mean, that's next on the list. So, Corey, does this nomenclature mean you're picking first to eliminate somebody?
Yes. I won the week again, 3 in a row. Thank you very much. Live studio audience clapping in the background if you can't hear it. I am going to pick the Atlanta Falcons to go ahead and eliminate from the playoffs. They are toast. Eric eliminated them back in the lead up to our week 2 show.
And I still feel good about it.
And he should. So, yes, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Falcons.
Yeah. They're hosting the team this week, and there will be dozens of people in that beautiful, gigantic stadium they play in. on Sunday. So I'm not going. So let's see. I am picking second, and this is a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I know.
So I've already eliminated Houston and Jacksonville and Atlanta last week. I got to go with the Jets. Good Lord. Ooh-wee. You guys smell that? It's the Jets. Goodness gracious.
They reek.
I was surprised that I was the first one to eliminate them last week on the show. If they hadn't already been eliminated.
I wasn't.
I definitely took advantage of having the first pick last week.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't want to pick them yet just because.
Maybe Zach Wilson.
Maybe Zach Wilson gets good. I don't know.
And I mean, we like Robert Saleh as their head coach.
Yeah, and the rest of the division with Tua getting hurt, the Dolphins look a little vulnerable. The Patriots don't look that great either. So it's like you just really don't know. But yeah, they'll definitely be my pick next week because I'm the only one that hasn't eliminated them. But for now, I guess I'm gonna have to go with the Jags because they suck. Solidly 0-3. I would have preferred to pick the Jets and maybe seen the Jags lose another game, but I just don't see, even if Trevor Lawrence starts to grow this season, that's not going to be enough.
I mean, yeah, they need 52 other guys on that team. Like, you can't win just by yourself. That's just not a thing. Okay, Corey, you're the one who picks which games we talk about and don't talk about. This first one on here, Jaguars at Bengals.
Well,
why is this in
it's
here?
only on there still because it's the Thursday night football game. So it's a
Okay.
primetime game that everybody will be able to watch, whether they do or not.
Go to bed early and get some rest.
I think it's worth watching because we get to watch Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase do their thing against a really crummy Jaguars defense. Not to mention, it's also the last two number one overall picks going up against each other head to head, which, is always worth checking out, if only for, the first half or so of the game. So that's why it's still on there. It's worth mentioning that much, but we're all fairly solidly on the Bengals.
Panthers at Cowboys. So Eric and I have 9 and 8 respectively. Corey, you have 4 on Dallas after they lit up Philly and light up pretty much everybody.
Well, yeah, because it's Philly. I mean, so here's the thing, because I initially was actually leaning Panthers on this. Honestly, the only reason I went Cowboys is because of the betting lines. But I was surprised to see the lines as strongly going toward Dallas as they were, because the Panthers right now have the best defense in the NFL. Their defense has been really good. And
who did they play? They played the Jets one of those games.
Yeah, so they did play the Jets in one of those games.
And they played Houston with Davis Mills.
Yes, the shopping mall himself.
But they do have a good defense. The one thing about the defense that did make me a little bit nervous was their safety. Justin Burris, he's going on injured reserve with a groin injury. And that's a pretty big loss for that defense. So that
they also lost J.C. Horn, didn't they?
Yeah, they also lost J.C. Horn, but Burris in particular, that opens things up for kind of the middle part of the field, deep middle part of the field, and so that will potentially let the Cowboys make some bigger plays. Cowboys are at home, so I wound up eventually flipping my pick over. But the other thing is, I'm still not 100% sold on the Cowboys defense. I mean, like, it's definitely improved over last year, but I still don't think it's good. And the Panthers offense has been playing pretty well. I know Christian McCaffrey is out, and obviously that's a big hit, but Chuba Hubbard played Chuba. Thank you. Chuba Hubbard played pretty well this past week in his stead. Sam Darnold is actually playing good football right now. Like, I don't know that I'm going so far as what I've seen some outlets, the terms that they've used, which is resurrect his career. Like, I mean, did he have a career before this? Because I didn't see it.
I think Sam Darnold's having a post-Adam Gase renaissance.
I would agree with that. I don't think he's seeing ghosts anymore, which, good for him. I don't think that this is going to be a walk in the park for the Cowboys. I ultimately decided that, the Cowboys should win this game. but I think it's going to be a tight one.
Oh. So I've pulled up the Panthers' schedule. They have a win against the Jets. So make of that what you will. They have a win against the Saints with Jameis slinging picks and whatnot.
They had to pick those off.
And they have a win against the Texans and Davis Mills. Wasn't there Davis Webb?
Yeah,
there was,
Webb
but
as well.
that's not this guy.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So those are their 3 games. So to say that they have the best defense in the NFL, I think is too small of a sample size, and consider the opponents as well. So Cowboy, I think now, I mean, I don't think 8 is enough points. Cowboys should roll the Panthers.
I mean, who have the Cowboys played so far? They beat the Eagles, who I've already eliminated from the playoffs. They barely beat the Chargers, who, granted, are a pretty good
Pretty
team.
good, yeah. And
They hung tough against Tampa Bay.
They did hang tough against Tampa Bay. So I'll give you that one. But again, like the only one of those games that they've actually played well on offense was the Buccaneers game. They didn't play particularly well on offense against the Chargers, and against the Eagles kind of laid down in the second half, and Dak Prescott still didn't do jack really in that game. It was all Ezekiel Elliott. That's the only reason that they were able to do anything offensively in that game. So
I mean,
I'm not feeling like the Cowboys are that amazing of an offense that the Panthers can't, keep them somewhat contained.
Oh.
I mean, they lost 2 starters in their secondary, and that's a death sentence against a team with a good offensive line, a great quarterback,
And Amari Pooper.
Yeah, I was going to say CeeDee Lamb, but, fine, him too. The Cowboys' receiving core is still very strong. I thought Dak played fine against the Eagles. He still had, 9.2 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He did have that fumble, 143 passer rating. So he put up numbers. He just didn't have a gajillion yards because they didn't need him to. They were handing the ball off a lot. I think Dak has hit a level where he's one of those guys where you kind of have to really worry about what he's going to do to you. And I don't think the Panthers are going to have the firepower to keep up without Christian McCaffrey. I just don't see the offensive success being there. I mean, they didn't look nearly the same when he went out. He's such a big part of their passing attack as well. I never really considered picking the Panthers. I did consider going lower because there were a lot of tough games this week. But I just figured when all else fails, I'm going to trust the quarterback matchup, especially at home, and I put a little bit more faith in the Cowboys.
Fair.
Okay. Another toilet bowl of a matchup. Lions at Bears.
I'm glad this one really won't have much consequence because I hated picking this.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
People say that the Soldier Field remodel looks like a toilet anyway. So the fact that this is at Soldier Field and Lions at Bears. Lions are 0-3. Did the Bears the Bears don't have a win, do
the
they?
The Bears beat
either?
the Bengals.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Oh,
picked
right.
them.
That was I
Yeah.
correctly picked that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
you lone wolf that one.
Yeah. So Corey this week is a lone wolf. Lone wolf on the Bears. Eric and I have the Detroit Lions to eat a big W in Chicago.
Yeah, a big W with your 1 point of confidence you put on them.
Yeah.
That's all
Corey,
they
Which
you
deserve.
also
is-
have one.
Exactly how many I put on the Bears. So this literally is barely going to move the needle for us, which honestly is just as
That's
well
appropriate.
because I'd rather not, be worried about this game all day on Sunday. I don't honestly have a particularly great reason for why I picked the Bears over the Lions. The Bears are at home, and it can't get any worse than it did last week, can it?
They
I
could
mean,
lose to the Lions. Yeah.
I guess that's true. But I
I've
just
mentally been down that road, Corey. Losing to the Lions, not fun.
I just I don't know. I want to hope that Justin Fields can have a better outing this week than he did against the Browns last week, and so I just went ahead and picked them. But it's obviously very low confidence. I could have flipped a coin, and I would have been just as happy with just going with that outcome.
Oh. I mean, for me, I feel like the Lions are trending up. I don't know if we discussed this on the pod or before we started recording tonight, but the Lions are trending in the right direction. I think they're going to win at some point. And the Bears, like you just said, it can't get any worse. But yes, it can, right? They could lose to the Lions. The Bears are trending down. They look
it's
hopeless.
hard to really call it a trend with the Bears when it was one game with a brand new quarterback. That's not enough to actually establish a trend.
I didn't like what I saw. And
I didn't like what I saw either.
I don't see them fixing that, right? Like, they just mailed it in. Like, what was that? That was awful. So I'm out on the Bears.
Yeah,
just completely.
That game
out.
against the Browns felt a lot like what I said earlier about the Jets, where you're not even playing that well, and you just look up and suddenly you're up 25 points because you're playing the Jets. That's kind of how it was with the Browns against the Bears, where it was just like early on in the game they were a little erratic offensively. Baker was overthrowing some guys, and then over time, just reality allows you to win the game. You don't even have to really try. You just find yourself up 20 points because the other team looks like a Pop Warner team out there because they can't protect the quarterback and the coach doesn't care. So now one might think that the Bears will come with a little bit more of a creative game plan this week because of all the heat that they've been getting for how poorly they prepared a game against.
One would certainly hope.
But we've also seen that they clearly aren't all that into Justin Fields for whatever reason.
Why did they draft him?
I don't know. And what bothers me the most is the fact that if they didn't think he was ready, it's not like they had the terrible option as another backup with Nick Foles. I mean, Nick Foles has played in the NFL. He's got starter experience. He won a Super Bowl MVP.
Nick Foles was also hurt.
No, Nick Foles is healthy. Andy Dalton's hurt.
Oh. Well, I knew Andy Dalton is hurt. I thought that Nick Foles was too.
No, he's available to play.
Oh.
And that's why Matt Nagy said all three are options, because Justin Fields is actually a little bit dinged up with his hand, although he says he's fine. It looks like he's going to be the starter. But if you truly believe that there's no hope for Justin Fields as he is currently prepared right now, then sure, play Nick Foles. But they didn't do that. So it's almost like they set Justin Fields up there to fail, which when you've got that kind of conflict of interest within your own locker room, this kind of has vibes of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, having a mutiny on the sidelines when Baker Mayfield was a rookie and they had to fire both the guys in the middle of the season. That's not a recipe for winning. I think the Lions are competing a lot harder. They've been in games for the most part. They look like they're handling things pretty intensely. I just think they sneak one out this time. I think that this time it breaks their way and they get a W.
Yeah. And I mean, nobody's going 0 for the season. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, there's nobody's that bad this year.
Yeah. Like, even Jacksonville's going to win a game.
The Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets are definitely the leading candidate at this point. Because holy crap, they suck.
They were terrible. Another terrible team, Texans at the Bills. We all got 16 on Buffalo. Is there much to discuss here?
No. It's just that it's all 16s.
Yeah.
It's
a destination.
A game that I think we'll discuss a little bit more. Here in Atlanta on Sunday, the Falcons are hosting the Washington football team. So I have Washington for 3. Eric has Washington for 2. Corey has Washington for 7.
Yeah.
The
Falcons are trash. They're washed.
Yes.
Matt Ryan is washed. Like their best receiver this past week was some guy named Zacchaeus.
Alameda A. Zacchaeus.
Yeah, like, is this the Bible? Like, is this the guy in the... Wasn't that the name of the guy in the tree, the tax collector? Wasn't it Zacchaeus? Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he? Something like that. Like, who is this guy?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I don't know who that guy is either. So.
Their defense is bad, but the big thing here is, look, Washington, their defensive line, their defense in general has just not really gotten the job done in the first 3 games this season. They know this. These are good players. This is a talented group of guys individually, but for whatever reason, they are not gelling as a unit right now. If there was ever a time to do it, it's this game against a quarterback who's washed, so our secondary should eat, and against a line that is absolute garbage, so our front line should eat. The Falcons, I was looking at at some offensive line advanced stats from Football Outsiders earlier today, and I couldn't believe when I saw this that their offensive line has a 0% success rate on power runs. With Mike Davis, I mean, this is a pretty good sized dude. He's a sturdy individual, and y'all can't do anything in the power run game with him. Like, even the Dolphins, who also have a really bad line and have Myles Gaskin, who is not as sturdy as Mike Davis is, have a 33% success rate. How? Just how? So if it's not going to happen here, it's just not going to happen for Washington. So I'm going to put my chips in here on this game that they're going to do something right. And if it doesn't happen, then I probably won't pick them again for the season.
You know, that's got to kill Arthur Smith to have a 0.0 success rate on power runs after he had Derrick Henry as his lead bell cow for the last, 2 or 3 seasons. He's got to be losing his mind. Yeah, I agree. The Falcons are terrible, and if this was 2 weeks ago, I probably would have been right up there with you. Probably would have put more than that, to be honest. But it's just again.
But again, like my thing with the Bills game is I'm not going to allow that to have any impact on my view of whether the football team is bad, middling, or good.
Yeah, but
my opinion before that Bills game is exactly the same as it is now. I'm pretending that did not happen because I knew that what happened was going to happen.
Yeah, sure, but my concern is the fact that in consecutive weeks, these two teams played the same opponent. We watched the football team almost went dollar in the jar there, but we watched them play the Giants, and they snuck out a win on a late field goal. And then we watched the Falcons play the Giants, and they won on a late field goal. I mean, it was a little higher scoring when Washington played the Giants, but it was a similarly close game, and I'm just like...
But the difference here is Danny Dimes doesn't play well against anybody else. So he didn't play well against the Falcons, and the Falcons still almost lost that game.
You see, but I don't really think... I don't
the
know
game was in New Jersey.
That. Yeah,
it was in Jersey.
I don't know if I buy that, man. Like, my point is, I've seen this team play a bad team in the Giants, a team that I've already chopped their heads off and said they're not making the playoffs. And I watched them struggle. And the Falcons are also a bad team, but they were a good enough team to beat that same team. I just can't put a whole lot of confidence in Washington right now just based off of the current situation. I mean, if their defense was playing to their level of potential, they would roll this game, but they're not doing it yet. And
I view this as a get-right game for that defense.
I hope you're right, but I'm not willing to put confidence on it. Maybe I'm just a little too pessimistic. I'm a doubting Thomas. My middle name is Thomas, so maybe it's appropriate.
It is. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the more
I actually
you
did know that.
Corey knew that.
Oh, okay. Back to football, I guess.
Actual football, not this game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Washington. Like, I mean, this might be a get-right game for the Falcons, too. Like, I mean, Washington's defense...
I think that's much less likely.
I think they just had theirs against the Giants, probably.
Yeah, like, Washington's defense...
If that was getting
bad.
Right, there's still a lot wrong.
Yeah, like, Corey, you said you're going to pretend like last week's game against Buffalo didn't happen, but it did, though.
Okay, but
like,
my point in saying that is that what happened in that game is exactly what I thought was going to happen going into that game. So my opinion of the football team does not change. Like, the needle doesn't move based on that game at all. The only thing that could have happened was that Washington would actually exceed my expectations because my expectations were that low.
They
for
also
that
got
game.
toasted by Danny Dimes.
Again,
That happened as
Daniel
well.
Jones always plays well against the football team, and it's the only team that he plays well against. He's trash
That's not
against
a
30
good thing.
teams, and then he plays well against us. And no, that's not a good thing, but some players just have that one team who inexplicably they play well against, and there's nothing that team can seem to do about it.
I've never heard
That's
of this.
not always an indictment of that team. It should be, maybe, but it isn't necessarily.
I mean, Peyton Manning always played well against the Ravens, but Peyton Manning played well against everybody. So,
Okay,
you
but
know, like that's
okay, sure. Okay.
I don't think Danny Dimes is any good, and the fact that he keeps lighting up the football team is a problem.
I mean, I agree
It's not
with that.
some sort of strange coincidence in the universe that causes Danny Dimes to be good against one team. Like, maybe they're not any good against him.
No,
right?
They're not, but they tend to be better against other players.
No, no. You can't win on defense alone in today's NFL. The Falcons, they have some good players on their team. They have some. Matt Ryan, despite being all washed up and old and stiff and, laying on the ground most of the time, he can do something right. I trust Calvin Ridley, this Olamide Zacchaeus character. Maybe he'll do a little something. Still trust Mike Davis. The Falcons' offensive line is garbage.
I don't trust Mike Davis right now.
But I think the team is going to win, but they're not going to roll, in my opinion. Okay. I'm sure tickets are available as well. Y'all should come down here and go to the game.
Nah, I'm going to watch Red Zone.
They have a Red Zone bar.
I'm sure they do, but I'm not going to pay to go to a game to sit in a bar and watch Red Zone when I can just do that at home for essentially free.
Yeah, but we could go down there and hang out with Evan before he leaves forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, Seahawks at 49ers. We're kind of all in the same boat. I had a really hard time picking this game. This was the last game I filled in on the sheet. Because I think this is going to be an incredible game to watch. And I think it could come down to the last bounce of the ball. I feel like there's going to be a ball in the air, either kicked or thrown. And depending on what happens when it comes down, will decide the outcome.
It'll be another abnormal game for the Seahawks to play in.
Yes, the Seahawks literally never play in a normal game, and this game's going to be crazy. There's going to be a safety or something, right? There's going to be a safety. Somebody's going to miss an extra point.
Maybe there'll be a conversion return.
Yeah. The extra point will get blocked and returned for 2 points. Or maybe we'll have the first 1-point safety in NFL history.
That would be something.
Yeah. This is the type of game that would happen in. I think the Seahawks can win. I picked the Niners because they're at home. And then I don't like what I saw out of the Seahawks. Their performance that sticks out in my mind recently is they gagged away that game against. Oh my God, the Orioles are down 6-0. They gagged away that game against the Titans. They could have won that game 4 different ways, and they just you know what? No, y'all have it instead. So I'll go with the Niners here in a squeaker.
Yeah, I was actually more disappointed in the Seahawks this last week against the Vikings, where they were up 17-7. They sat Kirk Cousins on a 3rd down, and the drive gets continued by a ticky-tack holding penalty, which they showed on Red Zone, and my literal thought was, okay, 5-yard penalty, just get another stop. And then the Seahawks didn't score for the rest of the game and gave up 24 unanswered points. And I'm just like, where'd y'all go? Y'all just packed up and left. And it just feels like the Seahawks aren't good. But I actually thought I was being a little bit conservative putting 6 on the 49ers because I was like, yeah, this seems like a game Russell Wilson's going to win. Because he just does that sometimes when his team's crap and they're looking like crap coming off of 2 losses, and they're going up against a team that's clearly more talented than them, and Russell Wilson just wins because he's Russell Wilson. So
it turns out you were the most aggressive of us.
I was, apparently.
I
was
only
like,
put 2 points.
I was looking at it, I was
49ers.
like, I kept moving him down the list. I was like, nope, more confident. Nope. Just kept going down. I was like, wow, only 6 points on the 49ers. That seems low. And then I started like, apparently it's high. So either way, I'm still not very confident. I'm not confident in like any game past double digits, like inside of 10. I'm like, even the Cowboys and the Panthers, like I'm not confident in the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, like there were 5 or 6 games that I was like, okay, these are all pretty easy, but everything else I was like, man, I kind of wish I could just put 1 point on all of these because quite honestly, I don't trust very many of these teams at all. So, yeah, I mean, I ditto everything you guys said. I mean, this definitely has the feeling of a game that Russell Wilson could just take over and go ham on, but the 49ers are at home, and I do think that they have the better team. So I picked them to win.
Okay. Staying in the NFC West, Cardinals at Rams. I agree this game, I mean, we have this on here as good game. I agree this game is going to be entertaining. But, Cliff Kingsbury's coaching the Cardinals.
Which explains why we all have quite a bit more confidence on the Rams to win this game than we do the 49ers to beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, so I have Rams for 12. Corey's got Rams for 9. Eric's got Rams for 8. I think we're all sort of in agreement that the Rams have looked really good this year. They just beat Tampa Bay, who just won the Super Bowl, in case anybody forgot. So
Matt Stafford has been incredible for them so far.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's maybe been the best quarterback in the NFL through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, their offense has been absolutely humming.
Cooper Kupp
shout out
is
to my
eating.
boy Cooper Kupp.
See, again, it's another week where I'm on here, and I want to be mad at Cooper Kupp because he's taking away the target share from my boy Robert Woods, but I can't get mad because he's playing so well.
Yeah,
Like,
he
it's not-
deserves the
It's not like Matt
target share
Stafford
he's
is
getting.
forcing it to him. He's wide open all the time. He's scoring touchdowns. I'm like, I can't even hate. Game recognized game. Second week in a row that I've said that about Cooper Kupp. Hopefully Robert Woods
You've
gets
been
a...
saying that for 3 years.
Oh, I love Cooper Kupp. Always have. I've always thought he was great. It's just that when he got hurt, that kind of pushed him off the radar for a little bit. But ever since that first year, really, with Jared Goff, when McVay took over, it was like, damn, this guy's good, like a real good player. But yeah, I agree. Like I think PFF, their quarterback grades, I don't know where they have Stafford, but it's pretty damn high.
He deserves it.
Yeah, they've still got Tom Brady at the top, which he deserves to because he's obviously been fantastic. But Matt Stafford's been great. He's basically the guy that he was always a good quarterback in Detroit. Now he gets to be a good quarterback with a coach that makes okay quarterbacks look really good, like he did with Jared Goff. But he's a good quarterback with a lot of arm talent and a lot of strengths that people could take advantage of. So now he looks like perhaps the MVP of the league this year. I mean, he's been absolutely everything they could have hoped. I mean, and that's the thing is, watching Matt Stafford, nothing he's done has surprised me. Like, I'm not looking at him saying, damn, I didn't know Matt Stafford could do that. We knew Matt Stafford could do all the things he's doing. He's just not being asked to do friggin' everything.
Right.
Which means, since he's really talented, when they ask him, hey, go hit old Deshaun Jackson on this bomb, because apparently that guy could still outrun everybody until he gets the ball and then he starts
And can still
taunting.
try to
Try to
drop the ball before the goal line.
But I mean, just the fact that he's able to be in an offense where he doesn't have to do everything. He doesn't always have to make the big play, because that's what kind of got him in trouble in Detroit sometimes. Sometimes he would make that boneheaded decision, but in this system, he probably knows, I don't have to do stuff like that. I can throw the ball away on this play. Hell, I can even eat this sack because Cooper Kupp's going to be open 35 yards downfield next play anyway. Booyah. Move the chains. Let's keep scoring. And, oh, by the way, I've got a great defense. So even if I'm being stymied, like early in that Tampa game, they did not play well on offense. But the Rams defense kept Tom Brady and the great Buccaneers offense at bay. So they had a little bit of time to figure it out before it was time to hit the panic button. Normally with Detroit, if Matt Stafford had a bad drive or two against a good defense trying to figure things out, they'd be down 2 touchdowns. So now he gets to just work his way into a game and be more comfortable. And, good for him. He's deserved that opportunity. I questioned whether or not he would be good enough to win the Super Bowl because, it's hard to do that. But he's certainly capable of leading this team to be among the upper echelon in the NFL, which he already has. I mean, they're definitely got to be their top team on the power rankings so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Ravens at Broncos. I got the Ravens for 5. This is a purple Kool-Aid pick for me. I mean, maybe. Because, their performance at Detroit, that obviously can't repeat again. They screwed up a lot of stuff. If Harbaugh was asked about his team's execution, other than the 66-yard field goal to bail everybody out, he might say he's in favor of it. That was a really, really bad performance. We've been over this. So I think they'll tighten all that stuff up.
I feel like we might have to, retire that after what the Notre Dame coach,
Brian Kelly, the way he butchered it so badly. It just,
that was so bad. I feel like we might have to stop using that on our show.
It was such a good joke from, was it Adam McKay, John McKay, something McKay?
I think John McKay.
Yeah, John McKay. With the
76
with the
Buccaneers.
Horrible Buccaneers that didn't win any games, and the quip was so good with him, and then Brian Kelly just dragged, just tread marked all over it, just drove over it with a bulldozer and just squished it and made it terrible. So I don't know how I feel about that joke anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so I've said plenty about the Ravens already. So I think they should win this game. But Denver's a good team. Denver's been playing well. Granted, their 3 opponents are 0 for the season. I think they played the Jets, the Giants, and the Jaguars.
Yep.
Yes.
So 3 teams that I've eliminated.
The 3 teams that you've eliminated.
No, I haven't.
You
Jets yet. Haven't had the opportunity yet.
Have you eliminated the Jaguars?
Yeah, I just did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did just do that. Okay.
Yeah. So, we'll see what that actually means. But going against the teams the Broncos have played, they played well. Eric, you have 4 points on the Ravens.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The Broncos are good. I know, again, the teams they've beaten haven't won any games yet. But the Broncos did what they're supposed to do against bad teams. They won, and they won handily. It wasn't like they were scraping out victories against the Jags. It wasn't like they were struggling to beat the Jets.
The Lions.
I just went with the Ravens because, I'm all in on Lamar Jackson. He's a one-of-one kind of player, and I think he's going to have a big week. I think that, Denver's defense is strong, although Bradley Chubb is out again. Unfortunately for him, just can't stay healthy, even though he's a great talent. It just feels like a game for Lamar to show up and show out. And you got to figure that Marquise Brown's going to have some type of better game than he did.
It certainly can't get any worse.
Yeah. Yes, it can't.
Don't speak that into existence.
It could stay the same. It could stay the same. But it can't really get worse.
You would think he would be spending plenty of time with the jugs machine, making sure that he can catch the damn ball.
I think that he would be spending the whole week just carrying a football in his hands.
Well, carrying, he has to be able to catch it before he can carry it.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to him. He hasn't had the opportunity to fumble yet. He can't catch the ball.
You have to possess it before you can fumble it.
Yeah.
So again, this is mostly just. I in Lamar I trust because I acknowledge the Broncos are good. It would not surprise me at all if they won this game.
Corey.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I went
Denver Broncos for 6.
Yeah, I went lone wolf. I went with the Broncos, and I put somewhat significant confidence in them. I mean, considering that's basically as confident that the Broncos will win as you guys are that the Ravens will win. So.
Which is not very.
Which is not very, but still, I mean, I felt confident enough that I was willing to put, more than, the 4 or 5 that you really reserve for the games that you're super nervous about. Ravens barely sweep by the Lions. They barely sweep by the Chiefs, who are the worst team in the AFC West. That win doesn't mean anything to me at this point. I'm kidding mostly because the Chiefs are still a good team. But they also lost to the Raiders, who are currently tied with the Broncos for the best record in the AFC West. So there you go. No, you can't control the teams on your schedule. You have to beat the teams that you're scheduled to play. And the Broncos have done that. Their defense, even without Bradley Chubb, have played really well. They've shut down the teams that they were supposed to shut down. Their offense has moved the ball against the teams that they're supposed to move the ball against. Teddy Bridgewater has played well. They've got some good weapons on their offense. Melvin Gordon is playing well so far. Javonte Williams has been a really good second punch for that offense. That fumble on the goal line notwithstanding.
Yeah, not this week.
Cortland Sutton has been playing well. Tim Patrick is still playing pretty well. Noah Fant is looking good. I mean, that offense is definitely capable of moving the ball. The fact that it is in Denver, in the altitude, that really is what kind of moved the needle for me and made me feel good enough about the Broncos to pick them with some, moderate level of confidence. But this game absolutely could go either way.
Yeah,
and I do expect it's going to be a tight one down to the wire. And it could very well come down to another Justin Tucker field goal attempt, in which case the Ravens are going to win because Justin Tucker just doesn't miss them.
I mean, he can make it from 76 in Denver. And that altitude. I mean, my goodness.
76 might be pushing it, but he could probably make it from 70.
Whatever gets it done. Could you imagine just seeing somebody line up for that kind of field goal? I mean, we already saw Lane Kiffin do it when he was trying to get fired. Which, he succeeded.
Well, he succeeded at that.
He was promptly fired a couple days later. That was just poor Seabass for even having to kick that.
Did that ball even make it to the end zone?
It didn't make it to the goal line. No. Like, in fact, I think the
was
return
short of the goal
It was so
line.
short that the return man didn't get up there to field it.
No, he didn't.
Do you have to catch those, or can you pick it up off the ground?
Yes,
and run
I think
with
you
it?
have to catch it, don't you? Maybe.
I don't think so. I think you can pick it up off the hop.
Yeah,
that's
a good question. I'm actually not 100% sure.
People don't typically make
that
a
doesn't
habit.
happen, right?
People don't make a habit.
I mean, you can
of
pick it up off a hop on a kickoff or on a punt. So on a field goal, I would imagine you could pick it up off a hop.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there you go.
I lost the
Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, Buccaneers at Patriots on Sunday Night Football. This game is getting a lot of hype. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's getting all worked up. People are writing books, apparently. And I'm like, this game has a lot of intrigue and it's, a sexy matchup and stuff. But on the field, I don't see it being a good game. And I don't think you guys do either. I got the Buccaneers with 14. Eric's got the Bucks for 13, and Corey's got them for 10. I think the Bucks roll the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots got toasted at home on Sunday by the Saints, who weren't nearly as good as the Buccaneers. Tom Brady's the type of person who, I get the sense that he seeks revenge. He's not gonna. He doesn't let things go, right? He still knows the list of all the quarterbacks drafted ahead of him in 2000. So I think Tom Brady lights up the Patriots. It's not going to be close. And we have another primetime game. You can go to bed early.
The one reason why I went a little bit lower confidence on this game than you guys did, because I agree, the Buccaneers should roll. They have by far the better team. But Belichick tends to do a really good job of preparing his defenses, scheming for good quarterbacks. And what better good quarterback to do that against than the guy that he coached and got to know his strengths and weaknesses for 2 decades. And to your point, Evan, the fact that Brady does strike us as a guy who holds a grudge, if Belichick can cause him to have any trouble early in the game, when you're out for revenge and you get frustrated early, that frustration is going to boil over and continue. It is not going, you're not going to let that go, and mistakes will be perpetuated. That is the one thing that makes me a little bit nervous about this game. Not enough to move it out of that top echelon of games where I'm like, yeah, I'm supremely confident that I have the right outcome, but enough that I put it at the bottom of that group of games.
I mean, I think that there's a flip side to the coin of Bill Belichick had 20 years to watch Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady had 20 years to go up against Bill's defenses and practice every day too. So, and Tom ain't exactly the type to forget key information like what your defense does. So, I think that I don't believe really so much that Brady's going to go in there all hopped up on the need for revenge. Now, I agree, of all the people in all of sports to have somebody coming at you for a revenge game, Tom Brady is literally the worst one ever since maybe Michael Jordan. Because Michael Jordan will not just beat you, but he will like try to kill you while he's
everything
beating
personally.
you. Yeah, he will literally try to end your life and your professional
He will
career.
make something up and then try to end your life.
He is insane. Like
There is no try. He'll do it.
no, he'll just it's documented. Last Dance, go watch it. It's great.
It was fantastic.
Yes,
phenomenal.
Whereas like, I feel like Tom Brady has shown a little bit less of that chip on the shoulder side that people always just attributed to him. It's like, I feel like he's just a guy who likes playing football. And he always says that when people ask him, why do you keep playing? It's like, because I like playing football. They're like, no, you got something to prove, don't you? He's just like, nah, I just like to play football.
This could be the game,
championships.
though, where, that something to prove comes out.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're talking about Tom Brady here. Have you ever seen him play badly after he flips out on the sideline and gets pissed? Because I watch him every time he gets pissed on the sidelines. He comes back the next drive and he scores. So I don't see Belichick Jedi mind tricking Tom to getting him off his game. And more importantly, even if Brady somehow doesn't play well in this game, he doesn't need to. Because Mac Jones has the training wheels on fully, and that's not going to cut it. The best way to beat the Patriots is to hit them down the field because their secondaries. Beat the Buccaneers. It's all still Brady, Patriots, whatever. The best way to beat them is to attack their secondary, and they haven't done that to anybody this year. Like, they have Mac Jones throwing. He's averaging 3.1 yards per attempt, like air yards. That's pathetic. Like, that's straight up.
Where's Ben Roethlisberger on that stat then? 'Cause he's
I'd have to look it up because I'm sure it's not great. Ben does throw it down the field. It's just usually intercepted these days.
Jeez.
He's done.
I mean,
We talked about
true.
that. It is sadly true. I just don't think there's any way. Like, people always say, it's like, there's no way this guy's losing this game. I'm like, I think there's no way that this team's going to lose to the Patriots. I just don't think the Patriots have it.
Okay. All right. In the last game of the week, Corey's once again on the lonely island. So
With Captain Jack
Raiders
Sparrow.
at Chargers.
This is the tale.
Such a banger.
Yeah. I will say though. So it's Raiders at Chargers Monday Night Football. I have the Chargers for 6. Eric's got the Chargers for 7, and Corey's got the Raiders for 5. I will say though, this is going to be a home game for the Raiders, right? Like when the all the teams were
Every home game for
moving
the Chargers
around.
is a road game.
Especially for the Raiders, though, man. Like, the Raiders don't play in California, and they're LA's team. They're the most popular team in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say, yeah. The when all the teams were moving around, the one team that Los Angeles actually wanted was the Raiders, and they didn't get them. So there's lots of Raiders fans from the 80s and early 90s from LA when the Raiders. How many championships they win while they were in Los Angeles? One or two?
Just one.
Just one?
Just one. They won the Super Bowl 25. They were still in Oakland, and then it was in Super Bowl 28. Do I have to? No, I'm off by 5 years. Either way, yeah. In 1980 they won while still in Oakland. The 1983 Super Bowl that they beat the team with Marcus Allen running all over the place. That was the one where they were in Los Angeles.
Okay, because
they moved in
Pete
82.
Rose or Al Davis was suing the NFL and Pete Rozelle had to awkwardly hand Al Davis the trophy while they were going to court and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of Raiders fans. I mean, the poor Chargers, man. Right? They had to host Dallas last week. And there's a whole bunch of Cowboys fans there. There's going to be even more Raiders fans. But I think the Chargers win. I really like Justin Herbert and the way he's playing. And I think they're coached better, despite Brandon Staley's mistakes. Maybe less egregious than Anthony Lynn's blunders last year.
God, Anthony Lynn was just woof.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly like an issue with black coaches not getting enough length of an opportunity in the NFL, but like Anthony Lynn, that was bad. Okay, that's incontrovertible, man. Hugh Jackson, that was bad. What? You can't defend that performance. You just can't. Okay, doesn't matter what you look like. You gotta coach well, and they didn't do that. So I like the Chargers, but the Raiders have been impressive, I will say. And every game they play is going to be entertaining. On why they insist on going to overtime. If the Raiders make the playoffs, they're definitely going to double overtime. That's going to happen as well. So I think that Chargers close. Maybe they've reversed some curse or something because they, last year they always forget how to lose close games. I pick Mike Williams in the Chargers.
Derek Carr has been playing really well so far this season. Josh Jacobs is out. No problem. Peyton Barber, for whatever reason, is the man right now in Vegas. He had a great game this past week. Darren Waller, fantastic receiver. Henry Ruggs has been looking really good for them. Their defense has been strong. I mean, they're, right around the top 10, if not in the top 10 among defenses right now. The Chargers find themselves in very familiar territory with the last ranked special teams unit in the NFL. Plus, they're in the bottom half of the league in defense, and if they're not in the bottom half of the league in offense, they're pretty close to it. And I agree, Evan. I like Justin Herbert. I like what he's doing. But the offense isn't really being that successful with their plays, if we're being quite honest. I mean, their success rate is pretty low. The Raiders coming this season were generally expected to be better than the Chargers. So far, they have been better than the Chargers.
Who expected that?
Football Outsiders.
Did you expect that?
I think I might have put the Chargers higher, but Football Outsiders had the Raiders with a much better Dave than they had the Chargers.
Well, Football Outsiders or Dave aren't on this podcast. They weren't invited. So,
maybe they should be. Maybe we should invite them.
You have the Chargers in the playoffs and the Raiders not in the playoffs.
Dave is an acronym.
But the point is, the Raiders have been better so far this season. And I also, as much as I don't think that John Gruden is as good of a coach as his contract is paying him to be, there's a 0.0% chance that he is being outcoached by Brandon Staley in this game. Give me a break.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I went with the Chargers because I think that the Chargers are probably a more complete team overall. I know the Raiders have played really well, but the Chargers can get after the passer a little better, I think, with Joey Bosa. I think that their defenses looked pretty good. I mean, they had some nice moments stopping Patrick Mahomes, who, maybe
slinging picks on Sunday.
Yeah, maybe pump the brakes with the no-look passes, Patrick, because
stick to look passes.
Yeah,
how about that?
The no-look pass was unnecessary. And everybody said, well, the receiver should have caught the ball. Yeah, it was catchable, but Mahomes did throw it behind him, and
he wasn't looking at the receiver, so the receiver is maybe not expecting the ball to come to him.
Even so, the ball was behind him. The throw was a little bit off target. I assume that if he was looking at him, there's a better chance it was on target, which means there's a better chance that he catches it, which means there's a better chance that it doesn't get deflected for a pick. So maybe eyes downfield, Pat. But Patrick, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to call him Pat. Apparently, he doesn't like that. Trying to be respectful here. But anyway, the Chargers look good in that game at times on defense. They put up a pretty good fight defensively against the Cowboys, whose offenses looked good this year. I think that they can get after the Raiders a little bit, and I think that they can score on the Raiders. I mean, I think the Raiders I was impressed with their win against the Steelers, mostly because they were able to move the ball as well as they did. I didn't really care that they limited the Steelers' offense because the Steelers' offense limits the Steelers' offense at this point. Like they're done. Bed's washed. He's finished. Like it's not really amazing that the skill position players are so good and the offense is so bad. It's pretty self-explanatory. Ben Roethlisberger is not a good quarterback anymore. So I don't really know if you can take much from their defense. The game against the Ravens was weird. Big Al was sitting there just getting cooked by Max Crosby because supposedly he loses all of his mojo when he's playing right tackle. And then against the Dolphins, it was, again, just the Raiders just feel like they do this sometimes where you start to get excited about them, and then they play a game like they did against the Dolphins that they should have won easily. The backup quarterback's in. They threw the world's first safety on a completed pass that didn't involve any fumbles or penalties. Like, they literally threw to a guy that was standing in the end zone who got tackled for a safety. I mean, it's just...
That was the worst play I've ever seen in my life. Like, that was the Colts snapping the ball with only 2 people at the line of scrimmage. Bam.
I mean, they didn't even have any blocking. It wasn't even a designed screen. It was just hey, go beat your man one-on-one.
Disaster.
And it's like, well, what happens if I don't beat him? Oh, well, I guess we take a safety. Great plan. Jeez.
Just drop back and take a knee in the end zone.
Or
right?
Run through the back of it like Dan. You can always do that. Shout out. But it feels like the Chargers, I don't know, I just have a vibe. This is their week. They're going to get this done.
Yes, go Chargers, go.
I know Evan loves the Chargers. He's always
Can't
on the
quit the Chargers, man. Can't quit them.
Yeah, I'm starting to not be able to quit them too, and I might regret it after this week because Vegas is playing good football.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the games that we have on the list for this week. Do you want to see all of our picks? If you made it through what's going on 3 hours of this show, be sure to check out our blog, and all of our picks will be on there. And also be sure to get your picks in our Pigskin Pick'em on ESPN.
Yeah, Evan, your sister didn't get hers in again this past week.
I will send her a text message right now.
So a little bit of stat boy action for you here. Oh, it's not really stat boy. It's more just clarifications. Yes, you can return a field goal if it hits the turf. You don't have to catch it in the air in order to return it. It's the same as if it's a punt or a kickoff or a blocked field goal, which goes beyond the line of scrimmage. It is returnable only by the defense.
There you
go. Okay. Let's see. I think that's it, right? Unless y'all have anything. Well, I have something there. The Orioles figured out how to lose 6-0 to Boston.
6-5.
Yeah, the Yankees came back and tied it 5-5. Yeah,
but
the Yankees lost as well.
They lost. Yep.
Oh, so now we might have to, stay up late and see the Mariners. Are they gonna, make some noise?
Their game has just started. They are heading to the top of the second. It's 0-0.
All right, the Mariners they need to win to, if I remember correctly, to stay alive because the Red Sox won, and Toronto won. So now it's just getting closer. Yep. If there's a 4-way tie, I'm gonna be just overjoyed. I might have to take off of work to watch that. Okay, so let's see. If you have any questions, concerns, or snide remarks, and you would like to reach out to us, there's several ways you can do that. The first way is via email, thesportsballers@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @sportsballers18. You can follow Corey on Twitter @CoreyPuffett. You can follow Eric on Twitter @Quagmire67. You can follow me on Twitter @Evan_Ash13. You can also like our Facebook page where we do the shows live on audio on our Facebook page. We're on there live right now. Do we get any comments or anything?
No, not today.
Okay. And yeah, if you made it this far in this podcast, be sure to go ahead and smash that subscribe button so all of our future content will be beamed directly to your device without you having to make any effort to search for it. You can find this podcast wherever you're listening to it right now. In addition, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. If it's not on a podcast app that you would prefer it be on, please reach out to us and let us know, and we will do our best to get it on there.
Just don't smash the subscribe button as hard as Devin Williams.
Yes.
A little easier for that. Keep your keep your fingers and thumbs and
intact.
yeah, all your tarsals, or that's your foot stuff, but whatever. Don't kick it either. Just push it.
Don't set yourself up to need surgery, especially if you're supposed to be pitching in the playoffs.
Yeah, if you're a playoff performer, Sean, that goes for you too. We know you're already subscribed. You're hitting dingers in softball. We want you to keep it up. Shout out to that. Yeah, sorry for interrupting, Evan.
Oh, I mean, I interrupt all the time. That's
okay. Well, I'm probably gonna interrupt more with some more shout outs later. So, but keep
okay.
Going.
Well, yeah, I think that's all of the sort of housekeeping end of show stuff. So before we get out of here, anybody you'd like to shout out before we wrap this puppy up?
Yeah, shouting out specifically a puppy. Shout out to Biscuit, the Capitals' new team dog. Now that the previous dog, Captain, has graduated as a service dog, he has moved on and has been adopted by a military member who will make use of Captain's awesomeness and his service dog abilities. So now they have a new dog, Biscuit, who is awesome and adorable, and he is now in training, and I'm sure he will be quite the service dog as well. But for now, we're just going to enjoy his cuteness and give him many boops and many pets.
All the boops and all the pets. No shoutouts from me, I don't think, this week. I think I'm good.
Go Terps.
Okay.
Or
yeah,
Iowa.
and
I don't really care.
Yeah. And go Yellow Jackets as well. Yellow Jackets coming off of a win against North Carolina in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, there's that. The ACC football standings have been turned on their head in one weekend. Like, Wake Forest is leading their division right now. Alrighty, so how much time are we at, Corey? 2 hours?
2 hours and 55 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's time to get out of here. It's 10:30. So thank you all so much for listening to our show. We really do appreciate all of our listeners, all 2 of them or 3 of them.
I think we're up to 4.
Yeah, I thought we had moved up to 4. Please feel free, loyal listener out there, to send us some mailbag content. Oh, that reminds me. Shout out to James Daly, who sent us a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we got that blog post up there last week.
Yeah, we posted that blog, so be sure to check that out as well, describing his trip to Happy Valley, to see Auburn take on Penn State. So, for Corey and Eric, I'm Evan. This has been the Sports Ballers Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.